Chapter 121. Ob flew at high speed for nearly half an hour. When he saw an old castle not far away, he let out a low growl. Huh? It's here? Aaron rubbed his eyes. Instead of going in directly, Abe slowed down and landed in front of the wrought iron gate. The moment they landed, both Aaron and Abe lifted their invisibility. Abe shrank back to his normal size and changed into his clothes. Touching his chest pocket with two white paws, he let out a heartless laugh while heaving a sigh of relief. Aaron couldn't help but smile at the scene, but he didn't touch the things in his pocket at all. Aaron, a slightly surprised voice came from the sky. Draco flew down on his magic broom. You don't even say hello in advance when you come to my house. It happened so suddenly that there was no time, Aaron explained, then looked at Draco's broom. The exquisite black broom had the words Nimbus 2001 clearly printed on it. Noticing Aaron's gaze, Draco proudly brought the broom closer to show him. How is it? This is the latest Nimbus series. My dad bought it for me a few weeks ago. Are you going to join the Slytherin Quidditch team? You guessed it, Draco said, not at all embarrassed. My dad bought 7 Nimbus 2001s and equipped the Slytherin team with Nimbus 2000s that can definitely crush Harry Potter. There's nothing wrong with that, Aaron admitted. Equipment is also part of strength. These days, if you give up your own advantages to give your opponents fairness, you must have something wrong with your brain. Don't you want to come in and sit down? Sorry, I almost forgot. Draco hurriedly opened the iron gate. Please come in. After entering the gate, Aaron had the opportunity to visit this lord-style mansion. A garden surrounded the castle in the center, creating a calming atmosphere. Fountains and free-roaming white peacocks were everywhere. The interior of the manor was even more luxurious, with gorgeous decorations, marble fireplaces, gold-plated mirrors, and thick carpets laid on the stone floor tiles. The first impression anyone would get upon entering was that this family was not short of money, and the second impression was that this family was very wealthy. As expected of a high-class wizard family. Sitting on the sofa, Aaron couldn't help but sigh. This configuration is so luxurious. Is your family also like this? Draco asked curiously. My father said that your family's inheritance time is much longer. I admit the second half of the sentence, but the first half is somewhat different from the truth. Gaius Castle has been redesigned many times with the progress of the times. I don't know how many times it has been rebuilt. The retro atmosphere is not comparable to Malfoy Manor, and our garden doesn't enclose the castle, nor do we have so many white peacocks. Don't laugh, but the only pet in our family besides the owl that was passed on is the one I hold in my arms. Draco froze for a moment, looked at Abe lying in Aaron's arms, and said speechlessly, But your pet is far from comparable to those peacocks. Speaking of which, why did you come to my house? Isn't it 3 days before school starts? It's hard to say, Aaron sighed melancholically. I may have to stay at your house for a few days. No problem, you are my best friend, Draco said without thinking. I'll arrange a room for you right now. Wait, Aaron stopped him. After hesitating for a while, he said, Let's wait for your father to come back and discuss it with him before making a decision. That's not necessary. I can still make decisions about this little thing, Draco said proudly, and my dad will be very happy if he knows you're here. It might be true under normal circumstances, Aaron smiled a little embarrassedly, but now there is a little accident. When Draco heard this, the joy on his face subsided a little. What happened? To be honest, I ran away from home and sneaked out. Therefore, my affairs in your house need to be discussed with your father, at Lucius with a serious expression. I'm here because I need a place to stay for a while. My situation at home has become unbearable. Lucius raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Unbearable, you say? What exactly has happened, Aaron? Aaron took a deep breath, trying to steady his emotions. During the holiday, I was subjected to a lot of unfair treatment. My family arranged for me to attend cram schools with content that is far beyond what a 12-year-old should be learning. I barely had 7 or 8 hours of free time each day, including eating and sleeping. It was suffocating. Draco, who had been listening intently, interjected. Father, Aaron's hands are full of calluses from the rigorous training. It's too much for anyone, let alone a child. Lucius glanced at Aaron's hands, noting the rough skin and calluses. He frowned, clearly displeased. This is indeed excessive. No child should be subjected to such harsh conditions. Narcissa, who had been silent until now, stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on Aaron's shoulder. You poor thing. You are welcome to stay here as long as you need. Aaron felt a wave of relief wash over him. Thank you, Aunt Narcissa. Your kindness means a lot to me. Lucius nodded in agreement. Yes, you can stay here, Aaron. We will make sure you are comfortable and safe. Draco smiled, feeling proud of his parents' decision. See, Aaron, I told you it would be fine. Aaron returned the smile, feeling a sense of gratitude and warmth. Thank you, Draco. And thank you, Uncle Lucius and Aunt Narcissa. I promise I won't be a burden. Lucius waved a hand dismissively. Nonsense. You are Draco's friend, and that makes you part of the family. Now let's get you settled in. As they moved to prepare a room for Aaron, he couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he had a place where he belonged, even if it was just temporary. Aaron looked at the woman beside Lucius and gave her an apologetic smile. Of course, I don't want to deceive you, Aunt Narcissa. Is it all right if I call you Auntie? Of course, Narcissa replied with a warm smile. Draco has spoken highly of you. Thank you for looking out for him at Hogwarts. Lucius, still puzzled, interjected. Aaron, what do you mean by saying you don't want to deceive us? Aren't you here to find Draco? Not exactly, Aaron admitted. I came to Malfoy Manor seeking refuge. Don't be so formal, Draco chimed in, standing up. Aaron ran away from home and needs a place to stay for a few days. The Malfoys exchanged glances, recalling an incident that had occurred in Nocturne Alley earlier. Well, Aaron, Lucius began, we were just in Nocturne Alley running some errands. We encountered a man who seemed to be inquiring about the whereabouts of a 12-year-old child. That's probably about me, Aaron said, feeling a bit exasperated. He hadn't expected djinns to act so quickly, nor had he anticipated that their search would be so straightforward. By specifying the age, they had significantly narrowed down the search, rendering his attempts at camouflage completely ineffective. Chapter 122. Not everyone is suitable for class. In the luxurious hall, Aaron found himself under the scrutiny of the Malfoys while nervously fidgeting with a dragon figurine. How should I put it? Djinns was smarter than I thought and managed to eliminate a lot of distractions. But it never occurred to him that I would come to Malfoy Manor, at least not yet, Aaron mused confidently. Djinns had watched him grow up and knew him better than his own parents. He would formulate the most efficient recruiting plan in the shortest possible time and implement it quickly. However, djinns didn't know that Aaron had an invisibility potion. He could exploit the Ministry of Magic's prohibition on underage wizards using magic in the Muggle world and escape more than 100 kilometers away within half an hour. Errors in intelligence would greatly affect djinn's judgment, so it was good to keep some cards close to his chest. Otherwise, Aaron might not even have a place to stay now. Lucius put his coat on the hanger and sat across from Aaron. I really don't understand. Why did you run away from home? Aaron's family arranged a cram school for him, Draco interjected. You can see it by looking at his hands. The Malfoys looked over simultaneously, and Aaron opened his hands cooperatively. Seeing the calluses on his hands, the couple were very surprised but suppressed their emotions well. It's just abuse. Anyone who has been wronged like this can't help but run away, Draco continued. Don't talk nonsense, Lucius interrupted his son. Some families have relatively special ways of raising their offspring, but no matter how special it is, it can't be too much, Draco protested. Draco, Lucius said, glancing at him expressionlessly. Draco could clearly feel the calm anger and closed his mouth resentfully. This is a family affair, and it's not up to outsiders like us to intervene, Narcissa explained softly, then looked at Aaron. In principle, we should inform your parents. After all, they will be very worried when you run away from home. It's not necessary. My parents are usually very busy, and they rarely come back even during holidays, Aaron replied. Narcissa frowned. Then you. I'm usually taken care of by the housekeeper djinns. This situation has been going on for many years, Aaron said indifferently. Uncle Lucius should have seen him. He was the one who picked me up at the station during the holidays. Do your parents know that you were wronged during the holiday? Lucius asked. I think if they knew about your situation, they would come back with distress. It's really not certain. Aaron shook his head with a wry smile. Those classes were arranged for me. This is part of the ancestral precepts. Jins doesn't have the guts to make his own claims. Lucius opened his mouth, then closed it, seeming to understand why the hermit family had been passed on for so long. People don't usually value the education of the next generation to the extent of adding it to the ancestors' precepts. Thinking of this, Lucius set his sights on Draco. He felt that he could learn from other families' ways of cultivating heirs. If his son could guarantee the family's glory by suffering a little bit, it would definitely be worth it. Draco shuddered and gave his mother a pleading look. Narcissa immediately patted Lucius's arm under the table, then shook her head slightly at him. Lucius understood what his wife meant and regretfully dismissed his thoughts. There is still a difference between other people's children and their own. If Draco had Aaron's talent, it wouldn't hurt to enroll him in a few cram schools. But the problem was that he didn't have such talent, so he couldn't copy Aaron's training method. Aaron, you really created a problem for us, Narcissa said a little speechlessly. If you are not sent back, your housekeeper will probably be very worried. But if we send you back, we can't bear it. After all, anyone who sees the calluses on your hands will feel distressed. Thank you for your concern, Auntie. But in fact, the Thleididi situation is not that serious. Jins knew very well that I would not do anything rash, Aaron reassured. Aaron pondered for a moment, then said, I think the reason why he was so anxious might be because he cared about his reputation. After all, I ran away right under his nose. This is his dereliction of duty. If he wants to save face, he must get me back before school starts. Aaron chuckled. I left him a note before I left, indicating that I didn't disappear accidentally or was kidnapped, but simply came out to relax. It's more of a game than an elaborate runaway. If I win, I don't have to study for the remaining 3 days. If I lose, I'll go back to class, honestly. Hearing this, Lucius and Narcissa exchanged glances and felt relieved. If Aaron had left a note for Jins, then it wouldn't be a big problem. It was just a prank at most, and their Malfoy family couldn't take him in. It's so cool, Draco said, his eyes wide with admiration. Draco, do you think it's cool to run away from home? Narcissa glared at her son, her eyes full of warning. I'm just expressing my feelings. I promise I don't have that idea, Draco quickly assured her. Better. Aaron ran away from home in desperation, but you know how Lucius and I treat you, Narcissa said sternly. If you dare to play like this, we will definitely teach you an unforgettable lesson. Lucius nodded in agreement and then looked at Aaron. You can stay here with peace of mind. Your Aunt Narcissa and I will not inform your family. Great, Draco said excitedly, happy that he could help Aaron. But, Lucius continued, if Jins really comes to the door, then I won't make it difficult for you, Aaron said immediately. Uncle Lucius, Aunt Narcissa, and Draco, you just need to pretend that you don't know anything. Coming to Malfoy Manor as a guest was just Aaron Gaius's personal behavior, and the Malfoys were completely ignorant of his running away from home. It will be fine. Lucius paused for a moment, then praised, You're really smart. Thank you for the compliment, Aaron replied. I'm going to arrange a room for Aaron right now, Draco said, standing up. Don't worry, just let Dobby take care of such trivial matters. Lucius stopped Draco and said meaningfully. I think you should first understand the difference between your vacation and Aaron's vacation. Compare what he did and what you did. This. Draco hesitated, but was silenced by Narcissa's stern look and sat back down. Do you have to say it? Draco asked reluctantly. Aaron, I don't want to be rude, but Draco's vacation has been a bit of a waste. He needs a benchmark to motivate him to work hard, Lucius explained. Uncle Lucius, I don't think I should be the benchmark, Aaron said awkwardly. After all, I just ran away from home and even went to a friend's house to beg for shelter. On the contrary, it is also your skill to be able to successfully leave home and evade tracking in a short period of time to reach Malfoy Manor, which is hundreds of kilometers away from Diagon Alley. Draco, don't you think so? Lucius asked. Yes, Draco replied gloomily. Of course. Aaron, I have my own selfish reasons for making this request, Lucius admitted. Draco's talent is better than mine. I hope he has a better future. Maybe you can tell me what kind of cram school I should enroll him in." "Father, please think carefully again," Draco pleaded, panicked at the thought of rigorous studies. "Don't think about it," Lucius said firmly. "People who are stronger than you are still working hard. Why shouldn't you work hard too? Draco, you don't have to worry. Even if we enroll you, we will respect your opinions and will not let you be wronged," Narcissa comforted him. "You will protect him," Aaron said, looking at Narcissa. "He is my son. If I don't protect him, who will I protect?" Narcissa gave Lucius a pointed look and then gazed at Draco dotingly. "Your father loves you as much as I do, which is why we have high expectations of you." Hearing this, Draco nodded solemnly. "Father, I will never let you down." Aaron saw that the family had almost finished their discussion and said helplessly, "You have to promise me that you must keep this a secret." "Promise, promise. This is a trivial matter," Lucius assured him. Draco immediately patted his chest and promised. "In addition, let me tell you something up front. Some courses are related to family secrets, so I can't tell you everything." "Understood," Lucius replied. "Just tell us the unimportant parts." "Okay." Aaron shrugged and then began counting on his fingers. "The cram school starts the day after the holiday. The specific content includes fencing, medicine, art, musical instruments, botany, history, driving, linguistics, cooking skills, drinking capacity." "Wait, that's enough. Let me process this," Draco interrupted, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. "How many classes did your family arrange for you?" To be more precise, there are 29 subjects," Aaron admitted. Draco staggered and almost lost his footing. Lucius and Narcissa were also stunned. No wonder Aaron wanted to run away from home. 29 subjects would overwhelm anyone. "Draco," Lucius murmured, "I take back what I said earlier. Cram school might not be suitable for you." "Thank you, Father," Draco breathed a sigh of relief. "I think so, too." Chapter 123, Malfoy's Hospitality. "Sir, this is your room," a house elf said respectfully as he led Aaron to the guest room. "The master said you can call on me any time you need something." Aaron glanced at the elf's protruding green eyes and his dirty, ragged clothes, frowning slightly. "Don't be so nervous. Can you tell me your name?" "Dobby. My name is Dobby," the elf replied, his voice tinged with excitement. However, his excitement seemed to overwhelm him, and tears and snot began to flow. Aaron handed him a piece of paper. "You need to control your emotions. Our house elves never cry." "Yes, thank you, sir," Dobby said, wiping his nose with a rag. "These days have been the happiest of Dobby's life. Thank you very much, sir." "Thank me?" Aaron was puzzled. He was certain he had never met this elf before today. "Yes," Dobby said nervously but firmly. "Young master has treated Dobby a little better since the holiday. He hasn't punished Dobby as he used to." "This is all because of you, sir. You enlightened him at Hogwarts, although the master still treats Dobby the same as before." Aaron remembered that he had indeed advised Draco to respect those stronger than himself a few months ago, but he hadn't thought much of it at the time. "You don't need to thank me. To be honest, I only mentioned a few words." "Sure enough, as Harry Potter said, you are a humble person," Dobby said, but he immediately regretted it. He shouldn't have mentioned Harry Potter. When he looked up, Aaron was eyeing him suspiciously, causing Dobby to take a step back. "What did you say?" Aaron asked. "It's nothing, sir." Dobby quickly lowered his head, avoiding Aaron's gaze. "Harry Potter?" Aaron sat on a chair, crossed his legs, and slowly poured himself a glass of water. "I don't think I misheard, and I don't think a lowly member of the Malfoy household would have anything to do with the famous Harry Potter." Dobby swallowed hard, wanting to explain, but unsure how to begin. "Either it was Mr. Lucius's order, or you acted on your own, but the latter is highly unlikely. So it must be the former. Here's the problem. Malfoy doesn't like Harry Potter, but their elf seems to have a different opinion. I doubt the Malfoys know about this." "Sir?" Dobby looked at Aaron sadly and pleaded, "Please don't tell the master. It's all Dobby's fault. Dobby took the initiative to contact Harry Potter." "What did you do?" Aaron asked, frowning. Dobby intercepted Harry's letters and informed his family that underage wizards cannot use magic casually. "Really? Doesn't your conscience hurt?" Aaron rolled his eyes, sighing inwardly at Malfoy's cunning. Intercepting the letters was one thing. It didn't have much impact on Harry, only depriving him of some emotional comfort. But telling his mean relatives that Harry couldn't use magic outside of school was like erasing their fear of magic. They would likely bully Harry even more than before. Dobby pointed his index fingers together, guilt evident in his expression. Dobby wanted him to promise not to return to Hogwarts. It was Dobby's own intention, for the sake of Harry Potter. What? Are you out of your mind? It took him more than 10 years to get the chance to study at Hogwarts, and you want him to go back to a miserable life of being dependent on others and in constant distress? It would be better to kill him. At least that would be a little kinder than leaving him without hope. Dobby froze for a moment, his nose twitching slightly. He turned around and began banging his head against the table, choosing a sharper edge to make the impact more painful. Bang! 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 The sound of the impact was mixed with his screams, and Aaron couldn't bear to look directly and quickly pulled Dobby a little away. To be honest, I have some sympathy for you, Aaron sighed. You must have suffered a lot of abuse at Malfoy's house. Dobby nodded, but thinking that this kind of thinking was disrespectful to his master, he suddenly had the idea of self-harm. If you want to hit the wall, please change the cup place. Don't hit yourself in front of this guest. It's somewhat impolite, Aaron said. Yes, sir, Dobby replied, looking aggrieved. Don't think I'm unkind. How you carry out Malfoy's orders, good or bad, has nothing to do with me. Your approach to Harry Potter in good faith is out of tune with the Malfoys and has nothing to do with me. I just don't want to see a little elf hurting himself in front of me, and then I have to work hard to stop him, Aaron explained. But you can rest assured that I won't tell Malfoy what you did. Thank you, sir. You are a kind person, Dobby said, and slowly exited the room. Call me any time you need anything. Understood. After Dobby left, Aaron put Abe on the table and then looked around the room. The room was on the 3rd floor of the castle, with good lighting. Through the window, he could see the garden and fountain below. The interior was well appointed with a desk, mirror, bathroom, and bedroom, all exuding luxury far beyond that of ordinary hotels. By the way, I almost forgot to mention it, Aaron said, looking at Abe with a solemn expression. The outside world is no better than my home or Hogwarts. You have to restrain yourself a bit. Don't show your wings, be a little more polite, and most importantly, control your appetite. Abe nodded, half understanding, but it didn't really grasp what Aaron meant until lunchtime. At the dining table, the Lucius couple was overly enthusiastic, constantly asking Dobby to serve various dishes. We didn't know what you liked to eat, so we prepared a little more, Narcissa smiled. I'm not that picky. Besides, uncles and aunts, you have prepared too much, Aaron said, embarrassed. He remembered how Abe felt when he ate for the first time. At that time, Jins had also prepared a large table of dishes, but his face was not as thick as Abe's. Aaron, you are a guest of Malfoy Manor, and we should do our honor as landlords, Draco said, then took a chicken leg for Abe. This little guy must be very hungry, too. Abe immediately smiled, took a sip of his saliva, and was about to grab the food when Aaron struck his paw. Pay attention to politeness, Aaron whispered in dragon language. To the Malfoy family, it sounded like heavy breathing. Abe reacted and reluctantly suppressed his desire to eat. Although he was very envious of the food on the table, he quietly waited for Aaron to feed him. Aaron, your cat seems a little different, Lucius said, looking curiously at Abe lying on the table. He felt this was not a simple cat. Abe is professionally trained and more sensible than ordinary pets, Aaron explained, giving Draco a look to not reveal Abe's identity. Draco smiled embarrassingly and started eating on his own. By the way, Aaron, I hope you can help me with something, Draco said hesitantly after eating and drinking. Go ahead, Aaron replied. Draco pointed to the Nimbus 2001 placed in the corner. Haven't you ever been a seeker? I want you to help me train. Huh? Aaron glanced at Draco. You want to be a seeker? Yes, the seeker is the soul of the team. Harry Potter is Gryffindor's seeker. My status in the academy team can't be lower than his. I'm pretty good at using the magic broom, but I haven't received professional training, so I can only ask you for help. I can help you with this, but... Aaron looked at Lucius and Narcissa. But you need the consent of your uncle and aunt, and you must be mentally prepared. My training methods can be a little harsh, and you can get hurt if you're not careful. Narcissa felt a twinge of worry upon hearing the news, but Lucius dismissed her concerns. It's quite common to get injured in a Quidditch match. Since Draco chose to join the team, he was mentally prepared for this. Besides, I don't think the Malfoy children are that delicate. Since Uncle Lucius put it that way, I can't refuse, Aaron replied with a half-joking tone. Just consider it as covering the accommodation and food expenses for these 2 days. Great, Draco said, unable to suppress a laugh. Do you need a magic broom? We still have a few spare Nimbus 2001s. No, I have this, Aaron responded, pulling a dark blue blanket out of his bag. Lucius's eyes twitched slightly at the sight. Is that a flying carpet? I recall the Ministry of Magic banned those a long time ago. I'm only using it in my private domain, so the Ministry of Magic shouldn't care, Aaron said with a shy smile. The Ministry has banned many things, but they often turn a blind eye to people of certain statuses. Chapter 124. Different Training Methods. Above the castle, Draco sat on his Lightwheel 2001 broomstick, facing Aaron, who was comfortably seated on a dark blue magic carpet. I'm ready, Draco said, his voice a mix of nervousness and excitement. Aaron nodded, then opened a wooden box and released the golden snitch. The snitch's wings vibrated at high frequency, making a buzzing sound before it turned into a golden blur, darting erratically through the air. Enchanted to stay within a certain range, it could only fly around Malfoy Manor. The snitch is the seeker's goal on the Quidditch pitch, but it's not the only thing on the field, Aaron explained as he tossed the quaffle into the air. The bright red quaffle zoomed around, circling several times before disappearing from sight. Now the important part, the bludger. You know it's aggressive and the most dangerous ball in Quidditch, Aaron continued. Draco nodded. This was common knowledge for anyone who loved Quidditch. Your training task is to catch the golden snitch. Huh? That's it? Draco was momentarily stunned. I've trained like this before you came. Yes, but not effectively. Training alone has its limits. In a real match, you have teammates and opponents. For this training, you have no teammates and I will be your opponent. What do you mean? Draco asked, concerned. He knew he couldn't match Aaron's skill. The question wasn't whether he could win, but how long he could last. Aaron raised an eyebrow, picked up a bat, and waved it symbolically. I will attack you with bludgers continuously until you catch the snitch. Every 5 minutes, I will use a summoning charm to recall a bludger that is far from you and then attack again. You can only dodge, not fight back. Your training ends when you catch the snitch or I knock you off your broom. That's not fair. Draco swallowed hard, glancing at the 2 bludgers in the wooden box, ready to fly out at any moment. The iron balls, about 10 inches in size, could easily break bones if they hit. Draco, let me give you a piece of advice. There is no such thing as fairness in the world. Only the weak seek fairness. Believe it or not, my training methods are a joke compared to those of well-known international teams. Their training is much stricter. I believe you, but... No buts, Aaron interrupted, looking at Draco seriously. Just tell me whether you accept it or not. Draco hesitated, glancing towards the castle where he saw Lucius and Narcissa watching him through a window. He nodded solemnly. I accept. Malfoys are not weak. Aaron smiled disdainfully. It's not up to you to decide whether you're weak or not, but your answer shows you don't want to be weak. More than that, Draco added. Here, Aaron called out. A house elf standing on the ground raised a medicine box. All kinds of potions are ready. I will keep an eye on the young master, and if something happens, I will. The elf, Dobby, stopped mid-sentence, realizing he had said too much. He began banging his head on the medicine box. Aaron's face darkened. He had hoped the elf would show some competence. If Dobby behaved well, his life at Malfoy Manor might improve, but it seemed Dobby couldn't seize the opportunity. You see, Draco shrugged, Dobby is used to punishing himself. I don't think he can change. Forget it, let's start, Aaron said, cutting off further discussion. Aaron swung his bat and sent a bludger flying. Draco dodged instantly, but just as he evaded the first one, the second bludger brushed past his head. Remember, there are always 2 bludgers on the field. Even though you have 6 teammates, you must always be prepared to handle things on your own, Aaron advised. Draco glanced warily at the intimidating bat in Aaron's hand, before turning to chase after the golden snitch. Aaron smiled and controlled his magic carpet to track the bludgers. After all, he was a guest here and wanted to give Draco a fair chance. The magic carpet was fast, but it wasn't as maneuverable as a broomstick in this setting. Draco's yes, darted around as he flew at high speed, searching for the golden snitch. The two bludgers frequently zoomed past him, disrupting his concentration, and a quaffle also flew around the field, further interfering with his vision. Compared to this intense training, his usual practice sessions felt like child's play. The danger level had increased significantly, and a moment's inattention could get him knocked off the field. After about 10 minutes, Draco spotted a glimmer of gold amidst the chaos of bludgers and quaffles. However, before he could celebrate, a strong sense of danger made him instinctively swerve. A bludger whizzed past his right side, leaving a clear imprint on his robe. "Someone seems to have forgotten that I launch a precise attack every 5 minutes, Aaron called out. "I didn't forget," Draco shouted back. "Good. We don't want Dobby to open the medicine chest today, do we?" Aaron teased. Draco rolled his eyes and turned his head, his eyes widening in shock. The snitch he had seen moments ago had vanished, and he had to resume his search under the relentless assault of bludgers and quaffles. Aaron watched Draco's struggle with a hint of sympathy before deciding to add more pressure. He casually placed his bat on the magic carpet, took out a bottle of soda and some snacks from his pocket, and shouted loudly. Draco wobbled and nearly fell off his broom. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "As a seeker, you can't be distracted by the crowd's noise. The golden snitch is your target," Aaron explained. "But it feels like you're just mocking me," Draco retorted. Aaron chuckled. "You have to understand, on the Quidditch field, your supporters will cheer for you, but your opponents will try to distract you in any way they can. I bet Harry Potter wouldn't be in a good mood if he heard your voice on the pitch." "Understood," Draco said with a wry smile. "Even though it's annoying, what you said makes sense." "Go on." Aaron took a bite of his biscuit and waved his hand dismissively. Draco's smile grew more bitter, but he turned back to search for the snitch. Inside the castle, Narcissa watched the scene unfold, her eyes twitching slightly. "This kid is really interesting," she remarked. "Indeed," Lucius agreed. "Draco's training today is more effective than his entire previous week. It's very beneficial for him." "More than that," Narcissa said with a meaningful smile. "Joining Slytherin's Quidditch team and becoming one of the Seekers will boost the Malfoy family's reputation and give Draco a certain level of fame. But what's more important?" "You always understand me," Lucius replied warmly, turning his attention to Aaron. "I want Draco to build a good relationship with the heir of the hidden family. It could be a valuable connection for the Malfoys." Narcissa's expression turned serious, a trace of panic appearing in her eyes. Lucius immediately tried to comfort her. "Maybe the situation isn't as bad as we think. That person may never come back. You'd better keep lying to yourself. The situation is... The mysterious man is indeed malevolent, but we all know how powerful his mana is, and he doesn't die easily." "Shh," Lucius made a silencing gesture. Even though he was in his own home, he still felt a lingering fear when mentioning the mysterious man. Seeing her husband so tense, Narcissa didn't know how to comfort him. After all, the mysterious man was an indelible shadow in their hearts. "I've done my best to clean up the aftermath and erase any connection between Malfoy and that person. But there's always a risk, no matter how small. What if that person comes back to life? What if he returns to rule the wizarding world? What if he forces Malfoy into submission again? What if—" Lucius trailed off after listing 3 what-ifs, unable to muster the courage to continue. He took a deep breath and looked out the window at Aaron. "With the protection of his family, even if something happens to the two of us, Draco will not be implicated. The Malfoys had a minor cooperation with his family hundreds of years ago, but it was more of an employment relationship than a true partnership. At that time, the Malfoys concluded that those families would not take the initiative to intervene in any affairs of the magical world. No matter how chaotic the world became, they always had the ability to remain unaffected." Chapter 125, Invisibility and Clone. Draco's training session extended until nightfall, ending in an unexpected manner. He didn't catch the snitch, nor was he struck down by a bludger or a quaffle. Instead, he fell off his broom due to sheer exhaustion. Fortunately, Dobby seized the opportunity to shine, catching Draco before he hit the ground. Aaron, controlling the magic carpet, flew over to Draco with a smile. "How do you feel?" "It was just an accident. Give me a little more time, and I'm sure I can catch the snitch." "I believe you can, but let's call it a day for now," Aaron suggested. "Why stop now?" Draco frowned. After an afternoon of intense training, he had become much more familiar with the golden snitch, bludgers, and quaffles. He could now identify which ball was approaching just by the sound. Ending the training now felt like giving up when he was so close to success. He was not ready to concede. "You're in a bad state right now. Training should balance work and rest. I can keep going." "But I can't," Aaron replied, rolling his eyes. "Jinx once said something that makes sense. Teachers often suffer more than students. I've swung the bat over 200 times this afternoon and my arms are sore. I ran away from home because I was too tired. If it's the same here, what's the point of running away?" Hearing this, Draco smiled sheepishly. "Sorry. It's getting dark." Aaron yawned, heading towards the castle. "Let's eat something and get some rest." Draco shrugged and followed. Lucius and Narcissa were seated in the hall. When they saw Draco, they exchanged smiles. "Father, Mother, No need to say anything," Narcissa interrupted, pulling him close. "We saw your performance. Your father said it was satisfactory, but I think it was quite good. You're only 12 years old, and you managed to persist until the end. That's commendable." "Ahem." Lucius coughed, then gave Draco a satisfied smile. "Although you didn't catch the snitch, you didn't disgrace the Malfoy name." Draco, flattered, straightened his back. "I'm a Malfoy." "Uncle and Aunt, I'm a bit tired, so I'll excuse myself for now," Aaron said, picking up Abe and heading upstairs. "Hey," Draco called after him. "Aren't you staying for dinner?" "No, I think you and your parents have a lot to discuss. Besides, I haven't had a good night's sleep in over 2 months. Can't you grant me this small wish?" "Draco, we must always try to meet our guests' requests," Lucius said, then turned to the house elf standing behind them. "Dobby, prepare a meal for Mr. Aaron and his pet." "Yes, master. Dobby will do it right away," the elf replied, quickly running to the kitchen. Aaron went upstairs to his room. After washing his face, he lay down on the bed, rolling around twice. It was a long-lost comfort. There were no teachers supervising him, no messy courses to attend. Although he was in someone else's house, the relaxed feeling was like standing for a lifetime, but finally sitting down today. To celebrate this hard-won moment of freedom, Aaron opened the system mall. Magic category transformation, 1,000 magic points, including animagus. Blank, Patronus charm, 200 magic points. Blank. Materials category, Phoenix Feather, 30 magic points. At Dragon Blood, 20 magic points. Mandrake Root, 5 magic points. Bezoar, 1 magic point. At Rhino Horn, 3 magic points. Item category blank. Magic Crystal, 100 magic points with powerful magic power, can power the magic circle, blank. At Collector's Edition Quaffle, 30 magic points, a priceless treasure for Quidditch enthusiasts. His current magic points totaled 422. It seemed like a lot, but every expenditure had to be carefully considered. Aaron was determined to spend wisely. "Even if I don't get exactly what I want, I can't spend more than 22 magic points," he reminded himself, staring at the blank product column in the magic category. Refresh! A new magic spell appeared in the previously empty slot. At 100 magic points, also called invisibility spell, can make the body blend with the surrounding environment. However, be cautious, as the effectiveness of the invisibility varies from person to person. Aaron swallowed hard, feeling that today was his lucky day. Not only had he succeeded in his endeavors, but he also obtained the invisibility spell he had been longing for. This was an incredible stroke of luck. As for the note about the spell's varying effectiveness, Aaron speculated that the more powerful the individual, the better the invisibility effect. He understood that this spell might not fool powerful wizards or those with strong intuition. As a magister, his illusion spell might barely hide him from other magisters, but it could be laughable to a great magister. However, this didn't concern him much. As long as it could hide him from ordinary people, it was enough. With this spell, he wouldn't need to worry about the amount of invisibility potion he had to consume while on the run. He could drink as much as he wanted and even clean himself all at once. Suppressing his excitement, Aaron looked at the next blank product column and invested another magic point. At Gohuizi, 100 magic points, activates when the spell of one wand conflicts with the spell of another wand with the same core. One wand forces the other to replay its spells, ejecting the spell from the end of the wand in reverse. Aaron read the explanation and remained silent for several seconds before dismissing the spell. Although it seemed intriguing, it was practically useless to him. The core of the wands had to come from the same part of the same magical animal, a very rare condition. Additionally, the spell required a stalemate between the spells cast by the two warring parties. Only when these two conditions were met could the flashback spell be triggered. This spell seemed designed for close relations who had turned against each other, like brothers, fathers, and sons, or masters and apprentices. Aaron's wand was carefully selected by Ollivander. Even if he encountered a stranger who met the conditions for the flashback spell, he had a spare wand to prevent it from being triggered. Moreover, he planned to gradually abandon the wand and specialize in wandless casting, making this spell even more worthless. Luck doesn't last forever, Aaron muttered, shaking his head as he dismissed the flashback spell. He refreshed the list a dozen more times, but none of the spells satisfied him. They were either spells he already knew or had no practical value. Just when he thought his luck had run out, the final refresh made his eyes widen in disbelief. At Scion, 2,000 magic points, creates a clone by consuming half of one's own magic energy. The clone completely obeys the main body's orders, has independent consciousness, and the same abilities as the main body. After the clone dies, it automatically returns to the main body. The main body can also recall the clone at any time to replenish its own loss and gain the clone's memories and abilities. Aaron sat up from the bed excitedly, his eyes shining brightly. Abe, who was lying beside him, was startled. A clone. The cost-effectiveness of this magic far surpassed that of the invisibility spell. With a clone, it was like having an efficient training device. He could delegate classes, homework, and other tasks to the clone, maximizing his productivity. Fighting and learning could be delegated to the clone. Although it might be unrealistic to offload everything, at least half of the burden could be shared. With this skill, he wouldn't need to hide his strength deliberately. After creating the thought body, his power would be halved. Then, by wearing a magic ring that seals half of his ability, he would effectively be at half strength. At that point, he would appear as an ordinary mid-level magician, perhaps slightly better than average wizards. He could be seen as an ordinary genius, possibly even less remarkable than Harry Potter, which would significantly reduce his visibility. Beautiful, very good, quite excellent, simply incomparable, Aaron exclaimed, barely able to contain his excitement. System, I have to give you a thumbs up this time. It's great. The system reminds the host to check the price before getting too happy. That's not important, Aaron said dismissively. Compared to the ability of the clone, even if it costs 1,000 magic points, it's worth it. 2,000 would be a stretch, but still worth it. Chapter 126, Small Goals for Half a Year. Aaron took a deep breath, placed an order for the disillusionment charm, and spent 100 magic points to acquire the invisibility spell. There was now an empty slot in the magic product column, but feeling the principles and application of the disillusionment charm in his mind, Aaron couldn't help but laugh. From today onwards, he no longer needed to rely on the weight of the invisibility potion. He could become invisible whenever he wanted. This magic would provide him with considerable convenience in his future endeavors. As for the skill of missing body, Aaron was also very eager to obtain it, but the 4-digit price was almost 7 times his current assets. This was the pain of having no money. When you encounter something you want, you can only look at it without being able to buy it. However, everything in the mall was clearly marked with a price, and there was no risk of it expiring. What was meant to be his would be his sooner or later. Aaron silently encouraged himself from the bottom of his heart and made a plan to accumulate capital. School would start in 2 days. Signing in at Hogwarts for 1 day was worth 10 magic points. As long as he signed in diligently and resisted the urge to spend during the process, he could complete a small goal within half a year. Boom, boom, boom. There was a knock on the door, and Dobby asked a little cautiously, "Sir, may I come in?" "Come in." Dobby pushed a small trolley into the room and placed 7 or 8 plates from the trolley onto the table. "This is dinner for you and your pet. Are you satisfied? If it is not enough, I will prepare more." Abe looked at Aaron, hesitated for a moment, and silently raised a paw. "Can you double it?" The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched, and he decisively rejected this brazen request. This was not his own home. If Lucius and Narcissa noticed such a large amount of food being consumed, it would be difficult to avoid suspicion. He didn't want more people to know that he had a dragon. "No, I'm satisfied. You can go now. I'll clean up tomorrow when I go out." "Okay, Dobby will leave now." The house elf said politely, silently exited the room, and gently closed the door. "Don't wait. It's just the two of us here." Aaron patted Abe's head. "Eat what you want. Don't be so restrained." Abe was stunned for a moment, then quickly jumped onto the table, picked up a piece of meat, and put it in his mouth. After eating a plate, Abe smacked his lips in satisfaction, but glanced at Aaron with some guilt. Seeing that his owner didn't say anything, he let himself go. He sat on the table and started eating like a hungry beast. Of the 8 plates in total, he only left 2 for Aaron, and the rest were all eaten clean. "You're really something. I can't expect you to be modest when it comes to eating." Aaron didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He took Abe aside, cast a spell to clean up the table, and then picked up the knife and fork to eat elegantly. The next day, Aaron opened his eyes and slowly sat up from the bed. Looking at the sunshine outside, he lazily stretched, feeling sleepy until he woke up naturally. It's another day full of hope. Sign in. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a magic point. Better than nothing, one small step closer to the small goal. Aaron murmured, mentally prepared for this number. He walked out of the room with Abe in his arms and saw Dobby waiting for him. "Why are you here? Is there something wrong?" "This is the master's order," Dobby explained. "The master asked me to stay here so that I can serve the respected guests at any time." Aaron frowned. "How long have you been here?" "I was here around 10 o'clock last night. But don't worry, sir, I didn't do anything rude." "Hey, should I believe what you said?" Aaron made a serious face. "An elf who can intercept other people's letters has been guarding my door all night. It's scary to think about it." "Sir, Dobby looked at the wall, with tears in his eyes, thinking that his head was particularly hard. "Okay, just kidding," Aaron said, breaking into a smile. The morning mist, while Aaron was leisurely munching on his breakfast, occasionally glancing at Draco's progress. "I have to admit, Draco, you're quite dedicated," Aaron said between bites of bacon. "But don't you think it's a bit early for such intense training?" Draco, eyes focused on the horizon, replied without turning. "Quidditch is a game of precision and practice. The more I train, the better I get. Besides, with you here, I have to make the most of it." Aaron chuckled. "Well, I can't argue with that logic, but remember, balance is key. Overworking yourself won't do any good." Draco finally caught sight of the snitch and sped towards it, his Nimbus 2001 cutting through the air with ease. "Got it!" he exclaimed triumphantly, holding the tiny golden ball aloft. Aaron clapped. "Impressive. Your skills have definitely improved." Draco landed beside Aaron, slightly out of breath, but beaming with pride. "Thanks, Aaron. Your tips have been invaluable." Aaron finished his breakfast and stood up, stretching his limbs. "All right, since you're so eager, let's get to some serious training. But first, let's set some ground rules. Safety first, always." Draco nodded. "Agreed. Let's do this." The two friends spent the next few hours practicing various Quidditch maneuvers, with Aaron offering pointers and Draco absorbing every bit of advice like a sponge. The morning sun climbed higher, casting a warm glow over Malfoy Manor and the surrounding grounds. As they took a break, Aaron looked at Draco thoughtfully. "You know, Draco, it's not just about physical training. Mental preparation is just as important. Confidence, strategy, and quick thinking can make all the difference in a match." Draco wiped the sweat from his brow and nodded. "I understand. I'll work on that too." Aaron smiled. "Good. Now, let's wrap up for today." We've made great progress, and I think you deserve a rest. Draco grinned. Thanks, Aaron. I really appreciate your help. As they descended back to the manor, Aaron couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Helping Draco had not only strengthened their friendship, but also reminded him of the importance of balance and perseverance. Back inside, they were greeted by Dobby, who had prepared a refreshing drink for them. Master Draco, Master Aaron, you both did very well today, the house elf said with a wide smile. Thanks, Dobby, Aaron replied, taking a sip of the drink. You always know how to make us feel at home. Draco nodded in agreement. Yes, thank you, Dobby. As they sat down to relax, Aaron couldn't help but think about the small goal he had set for himself. It was a secret for now, but he was determined to achieve it. With friends like Draco and the support of those around him, he felt more confident than ever. The day continued with laughter, stories, and the promise of more adventures to come. And as the sun set over Malfoy Manor, Aaron knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. The random clashes of quaffles and bludgers filled the air. Aaron was leisurely sipping juice and eating barbecue on a magic carpet, while Ab gnawed on a sandwich with a look of utter dejection. His big eyes, however, were fixed on Aaron's food box. Meanwhile, in the Gaius beverage shop in Diagon Alley, Jins looked at his 6 subordinates with a troubled expression. It's been a whole day, folks. We've searched everywhere, but all we know is that the young master left from the leaky cauldron. We haven't found any clues since then. Isn't this efficiency too low? Boss, we did our best, said a man wearing glasses. We've checked with all of Gaius's family friends, but the young master isn't at any of their houses. We've inquired at hotels, stations, even ordinary shops and roadside stalls in the Muggle world, one by one. Given that the young master left with 500 pounds, he should have left some trace by spending money. But it seems he hasn't spent a penny since leaving. I seriously suspect this is part of the young master's plan to confuse us. Very well, but this only proves our incompetence, Jin said bluntly. We've sealed off the surrounding area for miles, and still, there's no clue, Anna added, unless the young master is hiding in the sewers. That's impossible, Jins immediately dismissed the idea. He just ran away from home. He's not fleeing for his life. There's no need for such desperate measures. Wait, Jins suddenly had a revelation. Since we've ruled out the ground and underground, the only route the young master could have taken is the sky. Chapter 127, a guess very close to the truth. But how did the young master leave? Anna asked, puzzled. He doesn't know Animagus, so it's impossible for him to quietly avoid the sight of Muggles. Furthermore, the Ministry of Magic prohibits minors from using magic in the Muggle world. The young master is very aware of this and would not take the initiative to expose himself. Even if there are flying props, the young master can't use them in broad daylight. It's too conspicuous. But if we say that the young master waits until night to use the flying props, then it doesn't make sense. With our search speed, he cannot hide in the night at all, and... Noble One was silent for a while, then continued. And the most important thing is that I carefully counted all the magic items in the castle. No flying props were found missing. When Jins heard this, a bitter smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Is it an intelligence error? He knew that flying doesn't necessarily require props, but could also involve magical animals. He clearly knew that the young master raised a white dragon, which he could control to change size. With the huge form that Abe used to flatten a set of armor in the arsenal, it would not be a problem for a person to fly long distances. Boss, what do you mean? Dika asked. It's nothing, Dika. I just suddenly remembered that the young master has his own flying props. Jin said awkwardly. It's reasonable that you don't know, but I was also negligent. The 6 people looked at each other and fell silent. In order to find the young master, they had sealed off a 50-kilometer radius. But if the young master had flying props, then the blockade would be of little use. As long as he found a chance, the young master would definitely be able to escape from this range. After a while, Anna raised her own question. Boss, even if the young master has flying props and uses them at night, how did he escape our search during the day? And we don't have any records of the young master making purchases. He can't go hungry for a whole day just to hide himself. That would be too much effort. It's not impossible. Jins smiled bitterly. This is a premeditated runaway. Yesterday morning, the young master and A were almost starving and ate almost twice as much as usual. And it was all high-calorie food, enough energy to last him a few more meals. As for how he avoided our sight, didn't you just say that too? Anna froze for a moment, her expression becoming a little unnatural. It can't really be the sewer, can it? Who knows? But waiting in the sewer for more than 10 hours and then flying away after dark is the only thing I can think of. If you were the young master, do you have a better way? Will the young master do the opposite and keep hiding in the sewer? No, Tu spoke abruptly, but before he finished, he met the sharp eyes of the others. Moto, can you use your brain before you speak? Jin said, exasperated. Staying in the sewer like a rat for 3 days is better than going to cram school at home. Even if they can survive 1 or 2 meals without eating, can they go without food for 3 consecutive days? As soon as they get too hungry, they will come out to buy food. At that time, they will appear under our noses. What do you think the young master is trying to do? Experience the feeling of hunger? Or do you think the young master's IQ is at your level? Sorry, Master Jins, Moto smiled sarcastically. Slip of the tongue, pure slip of the tongue. Jin snorted coldly and turned to look at the others. Don't be so helpless. Just think about where the young master could be. Counting today, we still have 2 days. It's not much, but it's not too little either. Hey, Dika sighed. Master Jins, it's not that we don't want to find the young master, but the range is too big. At present, it is certain that the young master has jumped out of our blockade. Otherwise, there would be some clues. His running expenses are definitely enough for all the expenses. For 3 days, even if the young master is willing, he can treat this runaway episode as a trip that he can end at will. In this case, trying to find him is like looking for a needle in a haystack, without any clear goal. After listening to this analysis, even Jins felt a headache. If the young master followed his guess, then Abe's flight distance in 1 night was their real search range. How fast can a dragon fly? This is a very complicated issue, but it must be hundreds of kilometers per hour. How fast can a dragon with absolutely no records fly? It's a matter of opinion, depending on imagination. But even if it is based on hundreds of kilometers per hour, and considering the worst-case scenario, Abe could fly from nightfall to the next day when the sun rises, covering thousands of kilometers. It is not impossible for him to fly out of the country. The Gaius family has no ability to ask a country to help find someone in such a short period of time, unless they contact the media, offer high rewards, and use their influence. But as soon as the idea came up, Jins dismissed it. Family matters should not be publicized. If everyone knows, where would they put their faces? The patriarch and the old patriarch might even put down their work and come back to scold him. Are we just admitting defeat like this? Jin said angrily. What a shame. I can already imagine the young master waiting for me at the station with a victorious face 2 days later. Our current generation of guardians will be the same as the one more than 300 years ago and will become the talk of future generations. Master Jins, I think. Anna hesitated for a moment before speaking. Number 6. Speak up if you have something to say. The current situation can't get much worse, Jin said lightly, but there was a hint of hope in his heart. Anna was the most meticulous among them, so she might find some loopholes. I don't think the young master will run that far, Anna expressed her guess. The young master is more mature than most of his peers, but no matter how mature he is still only a 12-year-old child. Huh? Jins's eyes lit up, as if he had grasped something. Continue. Yes, an adult won't go too far away from home, let alone a 12-year-old child. The young master left a note, clearly treating this runaway as a game. He doesn't care about winning or losing. He just wants to have fun in the last few days before school starts. So I think he will not run too far and might even find a hotel with a relatively high cost performance after he feels safe. This? Dika was stunned for a moment. It's not impossible. That means the young master did jump out of our blockade, but he is not too far away from the blockade line and might even be nearby. That's what I meant, Anna said, but it's just a guess. A guess that is very close to the truth of the matter. Jin stood up and gave Anna an appreciative look. Your bonus will be doubled this month. This, Anna was flattered. It's not good. The young master hasn't been found yet. You deserve it. I have a hunch that your guess is particularly correct. Besides, you are much more reliable than those two guys who lost the young master. Your bonus will be deducted from their salary, so don't have any psychological burden. Number 1 and number 2 looked at each other, and both could see the bitterness in each other's eyes. It can only be said that they were unlucky, and the unfortunate event that hadn't happened in hundreds of years happened to them. Now that we have a direction, let's act quickly, Jin's ordered. Focus on checking the hotels within hundreds of kilometers. But what if we don't find him? Moto poured cold water on the plan. And the range is huge. Our time is less than 2 days. Jins glared at the straightforward number 1. Didn't he know this possibility? But knowing it is one thing. Saying it out loud shakes the morale of the team. Ahem. Go find him first, and I will make specific arrangements then, Jins concluded. Jins spoke calmly, then turned his attention to Anna. Anna, stay here for a wee. Lee. Yes, she replied. 2 minutes later, the other 5 people left the shop, and Jins allowed his earlier composure to slip away. Anna, your analysis was spot on. However, based on my understanding of the young master, the likelihood of him being in the hotel is quite low, not even more than 10%. Isn't it? Anna frowned. Yes, Jins continued. I know the young master well, but he also understands me. He must be aware that we are searching for him. He's learned a lot during this vacation, making it difficult to predict the scope of our search. If the young master were less cautious, we might have a chance, but if he's being extra careful, we may not be able to find him. Master Jins, I don't think you need to worry so much, Anna chuckled. It's broad daylight. Even if the young master has some means of flying, he won't have the opportunity to use them. We can complete the investigation before dark. Jins breathed a sigh of relief, but the words of Moto still lingered in his mind, casting a shadow over his thoughts. But what if we can't find any clues here? That can't be. Where else could he stay besides a hotel? It's 100 kilometers away. Who would take him in? As the words fell, both Anna and Jins seemed to have a simultaneous realization. They exchanged knowing smiles. Anna produced a map from seemingly nowhere, while Jins took out a small notebook, quickly scanning the names and addresses listed within. A few minutes later, Jins closed the notebook and looked at Wiltshire on the map with determined eyes. I found it. It's definitely here. Chapter 128. Happy times are always short. Malfoy Manor. Jins pointed to Wiltshire on the map, speaking with firm conviction. This is the most likely place for the young master to go. Are you sure? Anna asked, her brow furrowed in concern. I'm at least 90% sure, Jins replied. At Hogwarts, Draco Malfoy and the young master have the best relationship, and both are in Slytherin. When he took the young master home, he met Lucius Malfoy once, so it wouldn't be too abrupt to visit his house as a guest. Moreover, Malfoy Manor is just over 100 kilometers away from the last place the young master was seen. Based on the flying props the young master possesses, it can be reached in at most an hour. It is definitely the best place for him to stay. Anna nodded thoughtfully. Since you're sure about it, boss, let's set off now. No, Jins calmly rejected Anna's request. You have to stay here. It's not time for you to meet him. Others should continue searching in a blanket manner. In case I guessed wrong, there will still be a chance to check for gaps. After finishing speaking, Jins walked into the back room and tidied up his appearance. He had won more than half of this game now, and was the established winner, so he couldn't appear too disheveled. He needed to show his demeanor. 10 minutes later, Jins emerged in a clean and tidy suit. His eyes were no longer bloodshot from lack of sleep, and even his hairstyle was carefully arranged. Compared to before, his entire demeanor had been upgraded to a higher level. Master Jins, Anna's eyes twitched slightly. Are you being too deliberate? I've never seen you so formal, not even at a ball. What do you know? Jins adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, a meaningful smile on his face. If I show up disheveled, the young master will see it as a glorious defeat. But if I appear graceful, the young master will think we didn't take him seriously this time, and it will stop this unhealthy trend. Are you sure? I think it's better to think carefully about it. Anna rolled her eyes. Based on what I know about the young master, he might take this as a provocation, and it might get worse in the future. Hearing this, Jean's hands trembled slightly, and he accidentally tied a knot around his neck. Indeed, he had watched Aaron grow up. Although Aaron didn't seem to care about anything, he actually had stronger self-esteem than anyone else. If he showed up in an imposing manner, the young master might regard it as a silent show-off. Considering the 12-year-old's psychological rebellious period, it could lead to an explosive reaction. After a few seconds of silence, Jeans let out a long sigh, untied his tie, and changed into his usual clothes. Is this better? Anna looked him over carefully and, after a moment of thought, nodded solemnly. Do I need to prepare flying vehicles or transportation? She asked. A flying tool will do, Jean said with a smile. To be honest, I can't wait to see the expression on the young master's face when he sees me. Anna walked out of the shop, and after a few minutes, returned with a brand-new magic broom in her hand. Isn't this too new? Jeans asked, raising an eyebrow. I just bought it. Remember to reimburse me. Anna replied with a mischievous smile. Jeans was speechless. Normally, he would have scolded this witch in her 20s for wasting money. But finding the young master was the most important thing now, and he didn't care about educating his subordinates. He gave Anna a bemused smile, grabbed the Nimbus 2000, and quickly walked out of the shop. After leaving Diagon Alley, Jeans cast a disillusionment charm on himself, mounted the magic broom, and soared into the sky. Meanwhile, at Malfoy Manor, Aaron sat on a magic carpet, watching Draco below as he skillfully maneuvered between the quaffle and the bludger. Next to him were 2 empty lunchboxes and a holy dragon with resentful eyes. Unlike yesterday, Aaron's training today is more rigorous and more interesting. Instead of attacking non-stop or pinpoi, nenting every 5 minutes, he's targeting a bludger just when Draco is about to catch the snitch. However, just as Aaron picked up the bat and was about to let Draco experience the feeling of victory slipping from his hands again, he seemed to notice something suddenly, and his expression became unnatural. I caught it! Draco shouted excitedly, the golden snitch in his hand exuding a golden brilliance under the sunlight. Only 10 seconds later, Draco was embarrassed to find that he seemed to be the only one cheering. He turned his head to see Aaron standing on the magic carpet in a daze. Aaron, what's wrong with you? It's nothing, Aaron responded, a smile forming on his face. Congratulations, today is considered a pass. Don't make jokes. Although I'm not as good as you, I can tell that it's not about letting the water go. You clearly had the opportunity to stop me just now. When everyone makes mistakes in the game, your opponent is no exception, Aaron said while controlling the magic carpet to descend. The training is officially over. I hope you can become an excellent seeker. Draco couldn't help but frown. It seemed that there was nothing wrong with this statement, but it always felt weird. Aaron walked into the hall and gave Abe a wink. The other person looked solemn and ran towards the stairs immediately. What's the matter? It's so urgent. Happy times are always short. I have to go quickly. No, run quickly. After I leave, thank Mr. Lucius for his hospitality today. What, you're leaving? Draco was a little surprised. It's too sudden. Is it because we didn't entertain you well? It has nothing to do with the Malfoys. My family has discovered me, Aaron said with a wry smile. It's just that the speed is much faster than I thought. I thought I could delay them for at least 2 days, but now it seems that I underestimated them. A white shadow jumped down from the stairs. Abe held a backpack in his mouth and placed it on the table. Aaron quickly put on his luggage and threw the magic carpet to Draco. Hurry up and fold it for me. Time is running out, probably less than an hour. Infected by the tense atmosphere, Draco quickly folded the magic carpet into a square and stuffed it into Aaron's backpack. Wait, are you overly nervous? How do you know that your family is chasing you? Aaron quickly zipped up his backpack and then rolled up his sleeves. This is... Draco's eyes widened as he looked at the flickering light green magic circle on Aaron's arm, feeling a bit lost. I left a little behind on the note I left for Jins, just in case. An extremely simple magic circle. This magic rune has almost no value, only when it is close to another magic circle of the same origin. It will give a certain warning. just like now. You know how to do this? Doesn't the school teach magic circles? I only know a little bit, Aaron said in a deep voice. Read more when you have time. If you have nothing to do, you may be able to learn this by going to the library a few more times. Haha, you really think highly of me. I can't even learn all the magic spells. How can I have time to study another magic class? But isn't that too simple? Can't your family see that there is something wrong with that piece of paper? Under normal circumstances, it is naturally impossible to hide it. Even ordinary wizards can see the problem if they look carefully. But I left this note to my uncle. He didn't have time to see if there was anything wrong with that piece of paper when he was worried. When he finds Jinns, he will definitely scold him head and face first. At that time, Jinns probably won't have the heart to check the note, and what I left behind is a one-time magic circle. The effect lasts up to 2 days, and it will get weaker and weaker. If you can't find At the beginning you might have doubts, but later you won't. Draco shrugged and then gave Aaron a thumbs up. It's their blessing to have a young master like you. Haha, I thought you were praising me, Aaron replied with a shy smile. By the way, do you have any paper? I plan to leave him another note. Draco's interest was piqued immediately. Do you want to play this game again? Of course not. This trick only works the first time. It's meaningless the second time, Aaron explained. Wait a minute, Draco said as he quickly went upstairs. He returned with a piece of paper and a quill from a drawer. Aaron took them, and without hesitation, wrote a line of words on the paper before pressing a cup on it. Draco approached curiously and then turned away in astonishment. Are you serious? I have no choice. The opponent is too shrewd, so I have to find a way to influence his emotions, Aaron said as he put on his backpack and walked towards the door. It's too dangerous for you to walk like this. What if you run into him on the way? Draco said with some concern. Why don't you just hide in my house? Chapter 129, Timely Completion of Strategic Transfer. Forget it. Aaron smiled and declined Draco's offer. I used to play hide-and-seek with him a lot, but he always found me. If I didn't make the distance a little longer, I wouldn't even have the confidence to run. Draco's expression turned a bit unnatural. Is it really that exaggerated? It's so exaggerated that I seriously doubt they cast a spell on me, but I don't know, Aaron replied. As he walked out of the gate, he suddenly remembered something and turned back to Draco. Jeans will come over in a while. Pretend you don't know anything. Just act like I'm here as a guest. Don't say any unnecessary words. Just let him see the note on the table. Also, if you're alone, there will inevitably be some flaws, so it's best to ask your parents to cooperate. Understood, Draco said, looking a bit dumbfounded. Where are you going next? Do you need my help? No, you can't help. You underestimate me. The Malfoys still have some influence in both the wizarding world and the Muggle world. Really? A playful look appeared on Aaron's face. I'm planning to go to the Weasleys. Are you sure you can talk to that family? Weasleys? Draco froze for a few seconds, wondering if he had heard correctly. Wait, are you sure you mean the Weasleys? The Weasleys I understand? Aaron nodded without denying it. Draco exploded instantly like a powder keg. No, you can go anywhere, but you can't go there. Absolutely not there. I know the Malfoys and the Weasleys don't have a good relationship, but Genies and the Weasleys don't have any grudges, and no one would guess that I would go to the Malfoys' nemesis house, which makes it my best refuge right now. Draco took a deep breath. He could hear Aaron's determination but still tried to stop him. It would be awkward to think that a guest from the Malfoys' house went to the Weasleys' house, especially since this person was also his best friend. The Weasleys won't necessarily take you in, and you'll never get used to it. That family is not just poor. They don't even have a decent guest room. Even squeezing into a bed with them might be a problem. Also, there's an issue with food there. The Weasleys are nothing short of a miracle for feeding their family. Aaron smiled. Don't worry, I'm not that picky. I thought of this before running away and prepared a little something. To put it bluntly, all I want is a safe refuge for a couple of days. As for the conditions, I really don't care much. Aaron, do you really have to go there? Unless there's a safer place, the burrow is the way to go. That means you wouldn't go there if there was a safer place, right? Draco said hesitantly, looking perplexed. Actually, Malfoy Manor is quite big, and there are several secret rooms. Stop talking. Aaron immediately interrupted Draco, his expression becoming extremely serious. He was afraid that if he continued to listen, it would involve the secrets of the Malfoy family. Moreover, he now had a psychological aversion to secret rooms. The memories of those secret rooms in their house were deeply ingrained, and he felt an urge to cry when he thought of them. In the future, don't casually mention your secret rooms to outsiders. Draco didn't care much. It's just a secret room that was cleaned up, so it shouldn't be a big deal, right? That doesn't work either. Aaron shook his head seriously. The reason why the secret room is called the secret room is because there are secrets hidden in it. Secrets can be big or small, but since they are secrets, they must be kept. Okay, Draco shrugged helplessly. It seems that I can't persuade you anymore, but luckily you can stay in that place for 2 days at most. If you have been wronged, you must tell me when you go back to school, and I will help you get revenge. Aaron couldn't help but chuckle. Don't take things so seriously. The living atmosphere of the Weasley family may be much more relaxed. Besides, I've never been there before, so it will be a new experience. Aaron, a person who seeks perfection, even after making mistakes, picked up Abe and prepared to leave. Even if I've been wronged, it's not your turn to help me avenge, he said firmly. Wait a minute, Draco called out, stopping Aaron. He handed over his Nimbus 2001 broomstick. You don't intend to walk hundreds of kilometers on foot, do you? Don't worry, I have a magic carpet, Aaron replied. But the speed of the flying carpet, Draco began. Direction is much more important than speed, Aaron said meaningfully, then walked out of Draco's sight. He didn't go very far, though. After turning a corner, he put Abe down. Anyone else's scent? Aaron asked. Abe shook his head and whispered, No, there are only 2 of us here. That's good, Aaron said, taking out the rest of the invisibility potion. He was ready to use it all at once, but hesitated. He had learned the disillusionment charm, which allowed him to become invisible anytime, anywhere. However, magic requires a wizard to cast it. Without a wizard, or if the wizard has no magic power, the potion would be vital. So he decided to save the small half bottle of invisibility potion for emergencies. Aaron glanced at Abe, who had changed his clothes. He stretched out his finger and silently recited the incantation of the disillusionment charm. Abe's body became transparent, and Aaron applied the same magic to himself. It was Aaron's first time using the disillusionment charm, but the effect was satisfactory. They blended seamlessly with the environment, making them invisible to ordinary people. With his current mana and control over the illusion curse, Aaron could remain invisible for a long time, comparable to the effects of the invisibility potion. Let's go, Aaron said, looking at the increasingly shallow magic circle on the back of his hand. He jumped onto Abe's back and pointed in a direction. The holy dragon immediately spread its wings and flew towards the burrow at high speed. Just 20 minutes after they left, Jins arrived at the gate of Malfoy Manor. He put away his magic broom and tidied up the hem of his clothes, which had been blown up by the high-speed flight. He then rang the doorbell. After a while, Dobby, the house elf, came over and opened the door. Dobby glanced at Jins and asked respectfully, Sir, what is your business at Malfoy Manor? Well, I'm here to find someone, but before that, Jins took out his wand and cast a cleansing charm on the elf. Clean up! A pile of soap bubbles spurted from Dobby's dirty clothes. After the spell took effect, the tattered clothes turned pale white. Sorry, Dobby said, lowering his head in embarrassment while being excited. Dobby just finished washing the dishes and hasn't had time to pack his clothes yet. Please don't mind, distinguished guest. I don't mind. Many house elves are like this, Jin said lightly. He then looked at Dobby meaningfully. Your name is Dobby, right? I hope you can answer me a question honestly. Did any guests come to Malfoy Manor yesterday? Guest? Dobby asked, confused. Maybe my description was not accurate. It's a 12-year-old boy, about 1.6 meters tall, with a white cat in clothes, Jins clarified. Dobby immediately thought of Aaron but was troubled and didn't know what to say. In the elf's view, although Aaron's words were a little frightening, he was one of the few kind and tolerant people he had ever seen, and he was worthy of protection. and he didn't know the smiling person in front of him. What if he had any bad intentions? Okay, no need to say more, Jin said calmly. Your hesitation has already answered me. It seems that Master Aaron was indeed here. Aaron, Master? Dobby asked, dazed. Mr. Aaron is your master? Yes, I came here specifically to bring the young master home, Jins explained. Take me in first. I have to go and say hello to the master of the Malfoy family and take the young master. Right this way, Dobby said, leading Jins to the hall on the first floor of the castle. Sir, please wait here. The master will be with ye out shortly. There's no rush, Jins replied, waving his hand dismissively. He felt confident that the young master wouldn't be able to escape now that he was here. As he waited, a piece of paper on the table caught his eye. His heart began to race inexplicably. The scene felt oddly familiar. Curiosity piqued. He walked over to take a closer look. The first thing he noticed was the young master's handwriting. It confirmed that he was indeed in Malfoy Manor. However, as he read the note more carefully, his face darkened, and he couldn't help but slam his hand on the table in frustration. Boom! The loud slap startled Dobby. This is too much. It's just too capricious, Jins muttered angrily. Guest, are you all right? Dobby asked, concerned. Jins rubbed his forehead helplessly, his eyes fixed on the words. You arrived a few hours later than I thought, written on the paper. A bitter smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Was this a provocation? It certainly seemed blatant enough. He had finally found the right place, but he was just a step too late. The only consolation was that this note once again proved Aaron's cunning and resourcefulness. The Gaius family indeed had a worthy successor. Chapter 130, Draco slowly walked down the stairs, followed by the surprised Malfoy couple. Sorry, Jin said awkwardly. I was rude. It doesn't matter. The table in our house is quite sturdy, Lucius replied with an indifferent smile. Is there a reason for Mr. Jins to visit us in person? After Aaron left, Draco had a heated discussion with his parents. He explained the cause and effect of the incident and shared Aaron's next plans. The Malfoys immediately decided to cooperate with their son and play their parts well to maintain a good relationship with the heir of the Gaius family. To Draco's surprise, his parents didn't mind Aaron's choice of seeking refuge at the Weasleys' house. In fact, they admired his awareness. There was something I needed to do, but now... Jins reluctantly put away Aaron's note. It's no longer necessary. You seem confused. Is there anything the Malfoy family can do for you? Lucius asked. Jins hesitated for a moment, then focused on Draco. You and the young master are good friends. Do you know that he ran away from home? Huh? Draco feigned bewilderment. I don't know. Aaron didn't say anything. I always thought he was here to play with me. Wait, you mean Aaron ran away from home? Yes, we've been looking for him all day. This is serious, Lucius frowned, his expression changing slightly. Mr. Jins, we truly want to help you, but Aaron left after breakfast. It's been at least 3 hours now. Jins nodded regretfully. He hadn't placed much hope on this family either. I'm sorry to trouble you, but can you tell me the names of any places or people the young master mentioned today? The three Malfoys exchanged glances and then shook their heads in unison. No, this makes things difficult, Jins said, looking disheartened. The clue had broken again, making it hard to pinpoint Aaron's location. Worse, Aaron might not go to another classmate's house, expanding their search scope even further. Finding him within 2 days seemed more challenging than ever. Which direction did the young master go when he left? Jins asked. Well, Draco scratched his head awkwardly. After I saw him to the door, I didn't follow him further. There's only one road in front of our house. Jin's mouth twitched. This answer was too vague. It didn't help narrow down the direction of Aaron's departure, adding more pressure to his search. All right, before I leave, I want to thank you all for taking care of my young master. Although it may be a child's prank, the Gaius family will remember this kindness, Jin said with a half-smile. I still need to find my young master, so I'll take my leave now. After speaking, Jins turned around and left. He needed to return quickly to discuss countermeasures with Anna and try to determine Aaron's hiding place before school started. Draco, see the guest out. Lucius quickly poked his son's arm, trying to make a good impression on Jins. But as soon as he finished speaking, they saw Jins take out his broomstick. His body became transparent as he flew high into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. "No need now," Draco chuckled. Lucius ignored his son and looked at Narcissa with a hint of surprise in his eyes. "It seems I underestimated the background of this family." Narcissa also looked serious, but felt a bit relieved as she glanced at her son. "At least Draco and Aaron have a good relationship, which is a positive thing." "Indeed. What are you talking about?" Draco asked, puzzled. "Draco, are you sure he's a butler?" Lucius inquired. "Absolutely, Aaron told me." "This butler is not simple." Lucius sighed. "The disillusionment charm he cast just now was perfect. Your mother and I saw him disappear with our own eyes, but we didn't feel his presence at all. Being able to do this shows that his strength is above ours, perhaps even far above." "It's not that exaggerated," Draco doubted. "Jeans looks at most 30 years old. I can accept that his strength is similar to yours or a little stronger, but far more than this." "Son, he didn't lie to you," Narcissa explained seriously. "He didn't hide anything when he cast the spell, and he deliberately let us see it. Your father and I are both magisters, and it made us feel that we are not rivals at all. He is at least a great magister. And it may not be the first level of the great magician," Lucius added, "or he is not the kind of wizard who is underestimated. His real combat power is definitely stronger than that of the same level." Hearing this, Draco's eyes widened in shock, and his mouth opened wide. As a pure-blood wizard, he had a deeper understanding of the wizarding world than the average wizard. In today's magical world, magisters are elites, and most wizards are stuck at this bottleneck for a lifetime, making it difficult to progress. As for the great magisters, they are very rare, each a well-known figure in the magical world, respected wherever they go. And the great magisters all have a common characteristic. They are old, almost all over 50 years old, with some even reaching 100 or more. But the concept of a great magister in his 30s can no longer be described as talent. This is an absolute genius. In my impression, apart from the headmaster of Hogwarts, the only ones who can become a great magister at this age are mysterious people, Lucius said with emotion. They are recognized by the magical world as capable of breaking through to the existence of the holy magician. Gulp! Draco couldn't help swallowing, and a forced smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. A butler who can grow into a holy magister is somewhat absurd. Does Aaron know that his butler is so powerful? How do I know this? Lucius spread his hands. If Ginny's doesn't want Aaron to know, he must be kept in the dark. But Aaron's parents should know the strength of genies. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so relieved to entrust Aaron's life to him. Heh! This should mean that you don't know your blessings when you are blessed, Draco said enviously. Draco, Narcissa glared at him seriously, you have to keep this matter a secret, and don't let Aaron know. That's right, Lucius said. Ginny said just now that the Gaius family would remember this favor, but then he showed his strength again. It means that you can go to him if you have trouble in the future, but it is within the ability of a great magister, which is not a small favor. Draco nodded, understanding the importance of the favor of a great magister. Aaron sat on Abe's back for more than an hour before approaching the destination at noon. The village of Ottery St. Catchpole, Devon. Aaron looked at the green fields and trees below and searched carefully for a while before he found a crooked building, at least 4 stories high outside the village. This should be the burrow, Aaron murmured, because only this strange building in the vicinity showed signs of using magic. It was probably the Muggle-repelling charm, which prevented Muggles from noticing its existence. Abe landed with a growl, transforming to the size of a normal cat on a grassy field and changing into his own clothes, covering the wings and ears. Aaron also straightened his clothes. After all, it was his first time here. This family was all Gryffindors, and being a Slytherin made him somewhat nervous. With a backpack on his back and a dragon in his hand, Aaron walked towards the burrow. After getting closer, he truly understood what Draco meant by being extremely poor. The burrow looked like a few small houses put together by magic, crooked, with a few pillars inserted in the middle to fix them, and a few chimneys emitting smoke from the cooking. There was a garden, but there were probably more weeds than flowers, and there were many harmful garden animals, like gnomes. There is a small pond nearby, and just by listening to the sounds, you can tell that there are more frogs than fish. It is essentially a frog pond. As you approach, you notice a pigsty made of stones with a few white pigs inside, and a lot of free-range chickens wandering around. Ah, Aaron exclaimed as he looked at the sign in front of the house that read, "The Burrow." He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, confirming that he had indeed found the right place. The Weasley family home has distinctive characteristics, much like the Malfoy family's residence. However, while the Malfoys are extremely wealthy, the Weasleys are notably poor. This contrast makes both homes stand out in their own unique ways, easily recognizable among a cluster of houses. Chapter 131, The Ministry of Magic Internal Reward Order. Before he reached the door, Aaron heard laughter from inside. He recognized Ron's voice, along with his two older brothers, Fred and George. To his surprise, he also heard Harry Potter's voice. Seeing the figure outside the door and window, Harry suddenly stood up from his seat and asked in astonishment, "Aaron, why are you here?" As the words fell, Ron, George, and Fred all turned to look at the door in unison. Although they had a good feeling about Aaron, he was a Slytherin after all, and it was surprising to see him here without any invitation. Before I answer that question, can you let me in first?" Aaron said shyly. "After all, it's not easy to come here. It's hundreds of kilometers away." The twin brothers, George and Fred, looked at each other and opened the door before Harry and Ron could react. Come in. Nice to meet you," they said. "Thank you, George," Aaron replied. One of the twins froze for a moment. "Can you recognize me?" "I can't recognize you, but now I do," Aaron said with a smile. "Actually, I am George," the other twin pointed at himself, looking aggrieved. "Okay, Fred," Aaron said, then looked at the Weasley, who opened the door for him. "I see, George." The twin brothers looked at each other and shook their heads in unison. "It's boring." "Aaron, are you visiting the Burrow?" Harry asked. "Not really. To be precise, I came here to take refuge," Aaron explained, then looked at Harry. "I'm actually quite surprised to see you here. Your uncle, aunt, and cousin are willing to let you out? Do they have such a conscience?" "Of course not," Ron said, filled with righteous indignation. "You don't know how miserable Harry's holiday was. They didn't give him food and shut him up in a small room with the windows sealed. The outside of the house is full of locks. Vernon arranged at least a dozen for me," Harry added with a wry smile. "My status in that house is no different from that of a servant." "So? You escaped too?" Aaron's mouth twitched slightly, and he looked at Harry with more solemnity and admiration. He had flying props, the illusion spell, a sophisticated plan, and the most important running expenses, allowing him to travel hundreds of kilometers easily. But Harry had nothing, and he achieved the same feat, which was remarkable. "Also," Harry raised his eyebrows, "so you also—" "It's hard to say," Aaron sighed as he sat on a chair, looking melancholy. "Life is hard. You may think your vacation is inhumane, but compare it with mine, and you'll know what happiness is." "It's not that exaggerated," Ron said with some doubt. "You live a young master's life. Is there anyone in your family who dares to bully you?" "Yes, Butler Gins. Before my dad left, he asked him to enroll me in 4 cram schools. Of course, this is nothing to me. It's just 4 courses, and I can handle it. But there were so many little accidents in the middle, and the tutoring time was a bit longer," Aaron said, comparing his index finger and thumb, the gap between the 2 fingers seeming infinitely far apart. "To put it more intuitively, my average sleep time per day this holiday is less than 6 hours. Isn't this too bad?" Ron's eyes widened, full of suspicion. "Are you your own?" "What are you talking about?" Aaron rolled his eyes at him. "Sleeping 6 hours a day will have a little impact on the body, but it is still very easy for wizards to make up for this loss. In order to conveniently squeeze my potential, Gins did everything possible. He even drew me a big pie that couldn't be realized at all, which was too much." "It doesn't sound like it's unacceptable," Harry murmured. "At least it's better than my uncle's family." "Hey!" Aaron patted Harry on the shoulder and said meaningfully, "You won't think so if you change places." "Aaron, how did you get out?" George asked with great interest. "We snatched Harry out in my dad's flying car on his birthday." Harry, Fred, and George exchanged glances, a smile tugging at the corners of their mouths. That's a pretty good birthday present, Harry said. Wait, you were brought out by them? Aaron asked, incredulous. Yeah, I wanted to escape on my own, but I didn't have the means, Harry admitted, pursing his lips. He felt foolish for his earlier thoughts, but upon reflection, it made sense. Harry couldn't use magic, had no funds, and escaping from that cage-like house was no easy feat. If he had managed to cross half the country and reach the burrow without help, it would have been nothing short of a miracle. What you guys did was really impressive, Aaron said, giving a rare thumbs up. Whose idea was it to drive a magic car to rescue someone from the Muggle world? If the Ministry of Magic finds out, Mr. Arthur's job could be at risk. There must have been a gentler way to solve the problem. We were too worried to think of anything else, Ron explained, spreading his hands. I wrote so many letters to Harry, but he didn't reply to a single one. Not just mine, but Hermione's and Hagrid's too. Wait, Aaron, you didn't write to Harry, did you? We went through the trapdoor together. What happened to our friendship? Hearing this, Harry's eyes showed a hint of resentment. Hey, it's not my fault, Aaron defended himself. Didn't I have a better holiday than Harry? How could I find the time to write a letter? Besides, even if I had written one, it would never have reached him given his family's nature. It seems. Yes, Harry said with a wry smile, feeling somewhat grateful that Dobby had intercepted his letters. Otherwise, the letters from Ron and the others would have been scrutinized by the Dursleys first. If there were valuable items, like gold coins, they would have taken them for themselves. If it was an ordinary letter, they would probably burn it. But if it was a notice from the Ministry of Magic, like a warning not to use magic, they would be eager to use it against him. In essence, any letter to him was more like a letter to the Dursleys, and the news that finally reached him would definitely not be good. Don't change the subject, Fred said playfully. You haven't told us how you got out yet. It must have been a well-thought-out plan to get so far on your own, George added with interest. Well, Aaron scratched his head in embarrassment. Can I not say it? No, the four said in unison. Such a tacit understanding, Aaron muttered under his breath, then began to recount his escape plan. Of course, he omitted the part about riding a giant dragon, as it was too exaggerated and not something they needed to know. He made some changes to the details, but his modified plan still sounded impressive. That's amazing, George said, awestruck. You actually thought of hiding in the sewers to find opportunities. Most people wouldn't have the courage. And using a magic carpet to travel at night sounds more interesting than our car, Fred added. By the way, can you show us your magic carpet? Flying items like that are rare, and some people even consider them contraband. No problem, Aaron agreed without hesitation. At that moment, the door suddenly opened. Mr. Arthur Weasley appeared with his wife Molly. Children, we're back, Arthur announced loudly. His eyes soon fell on Aaron. Who are you? Aaron Gaius. Just call me Aaron, he said politely. Arthur and Molly exchanged glances, their mouths curling into smiles and a peculiar look in their eyes. This change in expression made Aaron feel a bit uneasy, as it reminded him of how Abe looked when he encountered his favorite dish. Sir, Harry began to introduce, Aaron is a friend of mine and Ron's. We met at Hogwarts. Sorry, Harry. Just a moment, Arthur interrupted, eagerly searching his pockets. After rummaging through them, he finally pulled out a photograph. Arthur reached into his inner pocket. I found it. This is it, he said excitedly, glancing at his wife. He then walked up to Aaron and carefully compared the two. That's right. I can't say they are very similar. I can only say they are exactly the same. Sir, what does this mean? Aaron asked, confused. Aaron Gaius, it didn't take much effort, Arthur exclaimed. It was only then that he noticed his 3 children and Harry Potter were all staring at him blankly. Why are you all looking at me like that? He asked. No, Dad, it's mainly because you're acting too abnormally, Ron said. You weren't this excited when Harry came. What do you know? The Weasleys have hit the jackpot this time, Arthur said, picking up the photo. Just half an hour before I got off work, a special arrest warrant valid for only 2 days was suddenly issued within the Ministry of Magic. A reward was offered for the capture of a 12-year-old boy, Aaron Gaius, without any harm. For news of him, a reward of 200 gold galleons is offered. For his exact location, a reward of 500 gold galleons is offered. A reward of 5,000 gold galleons is offered for finding and returning him safely to the Ministry of Magic. With this money, we don't have to worry about this year or even next year. Our family can get a batch of new furniture, magic wands, textbooks, clothes, and a high-standard trip for the whole family. Aaron stood there, feeling utterly embarrassed. Chapter 132, The Sense of Déjà Vu with Nowhere to Go. The slap in the face from life was so loud, it caught everyone off guard. Just a second ago, Aaron was feeling smug and secretly proud of successfully completing the strategic transfer and placing the Butler of Djinns. But in the next moment, he was staring at a wanted warrant for himself, a bolt from the blue. Arthur, the head of the Weasley family, was accustomed to living a poor life. He looked at Aaron as if he were a mountain of gold, and the symbol of money seemed to flash in his eyes from time to time. Aaron sneered and quickly lowered his head, not daring to meet Arthur's gaze. What a loss, Aaron thought, feeling the weight of the situation. Isn't it just running away from home once? Why bring the matter to the Ministry of Magic? This foreign aid is too exaggerated. Can't you afford it? Aaron, you? Ron swallowed with a complicated expression, a forced smile appearing on the corner of his mouth. I didn't expect you to be so valuable. 5,000 galleons, Fred laughed. I've never seen so much money in my life. If we sell you, our house can be redecorated, George said, looking at Aaron. Or you could pity us. The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched uncontrollably. He could hear a hint of sincerity in their words. What are you kidding? I pity you. Who pities me? He thought. After finally running away from home and avoiding the dangerous stage, he had unwittingly walked into the lion's den. It was truly sad, ridiculous, and lamentable. You're not really planning to hand Aaron over to the Ministry of Magic, are you? Harry Potter asked, somewhat embarrassed. He saved Ron and me. George and Fred exchanged glances, then smiled simultaneously. We just said that to lighten the atmosphere, they assured. Aaron breathed a sigh of relief and turned his attention to Arthur and Molly. In the Weasley family, children had a certain right to speak, but the real decision-making power lay with the parents. Ha-ha! Arthur sat opposite Aaron and spoke in a kind tone. Don't be so nervous. We know your name. Harry, Ron, George, Fred, Percy, and even Hogwarts headmaster Dumbledore have all mentioned you. I just couldn't help it earlier. After all, it's not common for a pie to fall from the sky, and such a big piece at that. Understood, I understand, Aaron forced a smile. But I'm still quite scared. 5,000 gold galleons is not a small sum. Who says it's not? Molly said with regret. It would be great if you didn't save Ron, so we wouldn't have any psychological burden handing you over. What? Ron looked at his mother in astonishment. He used to think Aaron was not his own, but now he felt like he'd been picked up. Just kidding, Molly said, giving Ron a look. I just wanted to express that the Weasleys wouldn't betray a friend. In fact, even if you didn't save Ron and Harry, we wouldn't report a 12-year-old to the Ministry of Magic. After all, you didn't do anything wrong. Aaron breathed a sigh of relief, though only he knew whether he truly believed it or not. So, let's get down to business, Arthur said, rubbing his hands excitedly. Aaron, why did you run away from home? Of course, if you don't want to, you don't have to say it, but I hope you can satisfy my curiosity. This is not a trivial matter. To find you as soon as possible, your family even opened up a relationship with the Ministry of Magic and issued an internal reward. You'd better not wander around now. Many Ministry of Magic staff regard you as a huge bonus and year-end performance. Hearing this, the smile on Aaron's face became more bitter. He had originally thought the burrow was no longer safe and planned to find another place to move secretly. But now it seemed that whether he wanted to or not, he couldn't leave here for the time being. With the reward order issued, as long as he showed up, he would be watched. Compared to being hunted down, Aaron thought it might be more dignified to surrender himself. With this in mind, he wed the calluses on his hands to the group and said solemnly, although it seems unbelievable, the cram school my family enrolled me in is this cruel. This kind of life has lasted for nearly 2 months, and I couldn't bear it any longer, so I ran away. The group exchanged glances, feeling some sympathy for Aaron. Arthur, touching his bald red head, comforted him. It's no wonder. If it were me, I would probably run away too. Harry Potter was particularly moved. He had suffered a lot of grievances and bullying at the Dursleys' house, but they had never treated him so cruelly. "Poor child," Molly said with emotion. Arthur gave his wife a hug and looked back at Aaron. "You should stay here for the first 2 days. But let's be clear, our family's conditions are not as good as those of your big families, so—" "It's okay, I'm not that picky," Aaron replied, waving his hand dismissively. He hesitated for a moment before continuing. "To be honest, I actually stayed at Malfoy Manor for a day before coming here." "What?" everyone exclaimed in unison, their faces full of astonishment. "Maybe I misheard," Ron said. "Is it the Malfoy I think it is?" "Lucius Malfoy?" Arthur asked, incredulous. Aaron nodded, confirming their suspicions. "I know you have a good relationship with Draco, but why did you go to their house first?" "That family is not exactly well-liked," Ron said unhappily, with Harry and the Weasley brothers nodding in agreement beside him. "Since I planned to run away, I made a certain plan. I definitely couldn't go to relatives' homes, hotels in the Muggle world, or crowded places. The only option was classmates' homes, and Malfoy Manor was relatively close. I know this may be difficult for you to accept, but I think it's better to be clear to avoid any unnecessary misunderstandings in the future." "That's true," George said thoughtfully. "After all, Malfoy and we both go to Hogwarts, and we see each other every day." Well, I'd like to ask you a question," Arthur said with some embarrassment. "Since you stayed at Malfoy Manor for a day, what about their family's situation?" "Sorry, Mr. Weasley. Although I stayed at Malfoy Manor, I was only a guest." "All right," Arthur said, feeling a bit regretful. He had hoped to ask Aaron if there were any contraband at the Malfoy home. After all, he had long wanted to make Lucius miserable, but it seemed that opportunity was gone. Guests naturally have to respect their host's privacy. However, Arthur's opinion of Aaron improved. Despite being a Slytherin, he seemed very sensible. "Aaron," Harry asked suddenly, "did you meet an elf at Malfoy's house? He was dressed in tatters and punished himself from time to time." "More than once," Aaron replied. "It's him. It really is Malfoy," Harry said indignantly. "It's disgusting. Malfoy doesn't want me to go back to Hogwarts." "I understand the situation, and I have already spoken to Dobby," Aaron said. He knew he was wrong, but he said it was for your own good. Harry opened his mouth but said nothing more. In his opinion, Dobby was kind-hearted but bound by his master's orders, and his master was Malfoy. "Ahem," Molly coughed. "It's hard for a guest to come here. It's not for you to interrogate him. Fred, George, Ron, is there a place for Aaron to stay?" The three brothers froze for a moment, exchanged glances briefly, and looked a bit embarrassed. "Looks like there isn't," Ron said, looking at Aaron apologetically. "We didn't expect you to come here at all. Harry now shares a room with me, Fred shares a room with George, my parents share a room, and Percy's room is being used for work. There's no space for another person, and the only room left is Ginny's." "Ron Weasley!" Molly suddenly yelled, her eyes blazing with fury. A fierce aura erupted in the crowded living room, making everyone, including Harry Potter, tremble unconsciously. It was clear that when a woman is angry, the danger is second only to a Tibetan Mastiff. Mom, listen to me," Ron said, trembling. "Ginny is the youngest sister in our family, and her room must not be used for anyone else." The flames of anger gradually subsided, and Mrs. Weasley gave Ron a hard look before turning to Aaron with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry, dear. How about we temporarily build you a cabin? Arthur's carport isn't bad. I've had my eye on it for a while, and the materials are ready-made after dismantling." Arthur Weasley hesitated. This is somewhat... But seeing the fire in Molly's eyes, he quickly changed his tune. "This is actually a great idea. I have no objections." Chapter 133, Dancing on the Edge of the Law. Aaron glanced reluctantly at Arthur Weasley, who, under Molly's coercion, had to stop his enthusiastic plans. Aaron couldn't help but feel a bit amused. "There's no need to dismantle the carport. I'm just here as a guest. There's no need to damage the Weasleys' private property for me." "Really?" Arthur's excitement was palpable, but he quickly composed himself. "I'm glad you think so, but where will you stay then?" "I brought my own accommodations." Aaron picked up Abe and pulled out a bunch of accessories from his pocket in front of everyone. "Is this a tent?" Harry asked in astonishment. "You actually brought a tent?" "Running is a big event. It's better to plan ahead. In case no one takes me in, I can always sleep in the wilderness. So a tent is a must. That'd be great, said Ron. We'll set it up for you in a minute. The important thing is not the tent, Arthur said, taking a deep look at Abe. His eyes slowly shifted from Abe's clear eyes to its pocket. The untraceable extension charm cannot be used for personal purposes. Is it illegal to use this spell? Dad, Fred rolled his eyes. There's no need to care about such trivial matters. As long as you don't tell anyone, no one will know. Besides, George added, doesn't your car, woo. Fred covered George's mouth mid-sentence. When George broke free, he met Aaron's playful eyes and immediately coughed. Aren't flying cars banned by the Ministry of Magic? Arthur squeezed out a smile. I seem to have explained that this is not illegal. There's a loophole in the law, as long as you don't use it to fly. I know. Aaron raised his hand immediately. It's against the law to kill someone with a wand, but not to own one. Exactly. Arthur clapped his hands. Yes, that's what I mean. You understand me. In order to take advantage of the loopholes in the law, you work very hard, Mrs. Weasley said, her hands on her hips and her face displeased. But when she looked at Aaron, she put on a completely different smile. Children, don't learn from him. Actually, many people do this kind of thing, Arthur explained. As long as they don't get caught, everyone turns a blind eye. After all, it's better to stay on the front line in life, so we can meet each other in the future, right? Hearing this, Aaron nodded approvingly. Although he suspected that Mr. Weasley's words implied he did not want to report any infractions, it was true. The law is naturally effective, but it cannot restrain everyone. Otherwise, the world would have been peaceful, and there would be no crimes. What's more, in the world of wizards, the strong are respected. The Ministry of Magic can restrain most wizards, but it has to give some respect to those with great power. As for the strong men like Dumbledore or Voldemort, who stand at the pinnacle of the magical world, the Ministry of Magic has no control at all. Unless they voluntarily restrained themselves, they would have to be confessed wherever they went. The place to live is settled, but... George hesitated for a moment. Do you need a quilt? The weather has turned cold recently, and living in a tent without a quilt, it's easy to catch a cold. Too true. My quilt was given to Harry, and you two only have enough quilts for yourselves. Ginny? Ron immediately covered his mouth, but seeing the murderous eyes of the people around him, he was extremely disturbed. I mean, how about we take Percy's quilt? He can't use that much by himself. We agree, George and Fred spoke at the same time. Okay, Molly sighed. This may be the only way at present. I'll go talk to him later. Maybe not, Aaron said, then took the magic carpet out of Abe's pocket. This is a flying carpet. Arthur immediately leaned over, his eyes almost glued to the dark blue carpet. That's right, it's the real thing, and it's the best of the best. It's banned by the Ministry of Magic, but it keeps getting banned. Arthur. Molly glared at him fiercely, and Arthur immediately retreated to his seat. Ahem, Aaron, I have to remind you, some magical items cannot be used so ostentatiously. Understood, I get it. This thing is just for entertainment when no one is around, Aaron said, giving Arthur a knowing look. Actually, I used it when I was at Hogwarts during the Christmas holiday. It felt amazing to sit on it and overlook the castle when it snowed. That's great. It's better than a magic broom, Fred said. You promised us to see it just now. Don't worry. I will keep my word, Aaron assured, spreading out a small part of the blanket. Actually, this thing is very warm and can completely replace a quilt. Hearing this, the corners of their mouths twitched slightly. The cost of a magic carpet is much higher than that of a broomstick, and this one looked like a limited edition, making its value several times higher. Using such a luxurious item as a quilt really hurt their poor self-esteem. After a few seconds of silence, Arthur slowly said, You guys go help Aaron set up the tent first, and come to lunch after you're done. Molly, I think you made one extra serving today. Okay, no problem. Aaron slowly raised his right hand. Although it's a bit embarrassing to say, could you please prepare an extra portion for my cat? Molly looked at the white cat next to Aaron, and her heart almost melted. How could there be such a cute cat? Among the animals she had ever seen, only Dumbledore's phoenix could match it. No problem, Molly agreed immediately. It's just a cute pet. How much can it eat? Harry and Ron looked at each other, remembering Abe's appetite at Hogwarts, and couldn't help but smile wryly. "Mom," said Ron, "listen to me. You'd better be more prepared. This cat is not an ordinary eater. Its appetite may be bigger than mine. It's not an exaggeration to say," Harry added. "It eats as much as all of us put together." "What are you kidding?" "It's not a joke. It's a fact, Mrs. Weasley," Harry insisted, casting a far-fetched glance at Abe. "Its size is completely out of proportion to its exaggerated appetite." "It seems to be true," George said. "We saw it eating in the Great Hall at Hogwarts. If you use one word to describe it, what's that called, Fred?" Like the wind and the clouds." Molly froze for a moment. She knew these children wouldn't lie to her, but she felt a little embarrassed. No woman could just watch such a cute creature go hungry, but the problem was whether their family's food reserves were enough for it. "Is this a fantastic beast?" Arthur asked in disbelief. Although it was a guess, it seemed almost certain. Ordinary cats do not have such an appetite. Aaron didn't deny it and patted Abe's head. It was so cute, and its healing smile instantly lowered Molly's resistance significantly. After all, if there wasn't enough food, she couldn't let it starve. At worst, she would go to the village to stock up. "Oh my God!" Arthur patted his forehead speechlessly. The untraceable stretching charm, the flying blanket, magical animals, any one of these could land you in Azkaban. "No," Aaron said solemnly. "The untraceable stretching charm was prepared by my family, and the Ministry of Magic should have reported it, but no one knew about it. It's true that Abe is a magical animal, but I have a strong enough guarantee that I can raise it reasonably and legally. Of course, the fewer people who know, the better, to avoid unnecessary trouble. As for the magic carpet, I don't think the Ministry of Magic would go after the heir of a wizard family for such a trivial matter." Arthur was silent, not knowing what to say for a while. "Dad is envious," George said with a smile. "Indeed," Fred shrugged. "I am also envious of taking advantage of legal loopholes so openly." "Shut up," Molly snapped at her two sons fiercely. "If you even think about skirting the law, I'll break your legs first," Mrs. Weasley warned sternly. George and Fred shrank back, their usual bravado evaporating in the face of their mother's fury. They were like kittens, subdued and silent. "Aaron, you go set up the tent, and I'll prepare Abe's share," Mrs. Weasley instructed. "Thank you, Mrs. Weasley, but I have some things I need to sort out myself. We'll prepare our own meals. Let me give you money for the ingredients," Aaron replied politely. He then emptied more than half of the galleons from his backpack onto the table. Hundreds of golden coins, each adorned with dragon-shaped patterns, clinked together as they formed a small pile. The room seemed to grow warmer as everyone gasped in surprise. The Weasleys had seen large sums of money before, but their family expenses were high, and they often struggled to make ends meet. "No, that's too much," Molly said, averting her eyes from the pile of gold. "It's just ingredients." "Maybe I didn't explain clearly, Mrs. Weasley," Aaron said, scratching his head shyly. "You have pigs, chickens, and fish in your yard, right? I was hoping for fresh meat and possibly some pots and pans, so it's really not that much money. Of course, if it's not enough, I'll make up the difference." Chapter 134, Demonstrating Real Technology. Aaron and the others spread out the inner tent in an open space in front of the carport. It took a considerable amount of time to complete the skeleton. Then, they placed the outer tent over the inner tent and secured the four corners with tent nails. A light blue tent, measuring 3 meters in length, 3 meters in width, and 2 meters in height, was finally set up. "It's really great," George said, looking at the bright blue tent with a sense of comfort. "There's even a skylight," Fred added with emotion. "You can see the night sky when you have nothing to do at night. Not only does it provide shelter from the wind and rain, but it can also be folded up when not in use. Muggle inventions are truly essential for camping in the wild." "That's about right," Harry said, a glint of interest in his eyes. He suddenly had the idea of buying a tent. After all, he always wanted to leave the Dursleys' house. But this was just a thought. As an underage child, many things required the consent of a guardian, even at Hogwarts. This meant he wouldn't be able to leave that home until he came of age, unless he had new guardians. At mealtime, Mrs. Weasley laid out a sumptuous spread on the dining table. In the slightly crowded kitchen, Arthur was the only one reading a newspaper in a chair. "Where are they?" Molly asked. "They're still outside," Arthur replied, pointing to the window meaningfully. "I don't think you need to prepare so much. The portion is 3 times the usual amount. Fred and the others took away a lot of seasonings and kitchen utensils just now. Aaron should have some skills, at least he won't starve himself." "That's not okay. Aaron is just a child. Even if he knows how to cook, how delicious can the food he makes be? I'm just being cautious. We can't let our guests go hungry," Molly said solemnly, her spatula dancing in her hand. "Furthermore, that child gave us almost 300 galleons. Isn't this money worth a little food?" At that moment, a strong fragrance wafted in. Molly couldn't help but sniff the air, while Arthur looked out the window in astonishment. He turned around too quickly and almost fell off his chair. "My Merlin!" Arthur exclaimed, swallowing hard. "I don't know how it tastes, but just the smell makes me want to eat. It's at least better than yours." "What did you say? Say it again," Molly demanded. "I mean," Arthur blinked. "I'll get them for dinner and see if they burnt the pot, by the way." Thump! 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 The sound of someone coming down the stairs echoed, and a red-haired girl ran into the kitchen excitedly. "Mom, what's for lunch?" Ginny asked. Molly's face was serious, but a forced smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Ginny, you should be previewing your textbooks now and reading Lockhart's works. He is your defense against the dark arts teacher." Ginny nodded, not arguing with her mother. After all, Mrs. Weasley was a die-hard Lockhart fan. "I still want to know what's for lunch." "Ha-ha! Your mother doesn't necessarily want to tell you," Arthur chuckled. Seeing his wife glaring at him, he immediately pointed to the dining table sincerely. "It's very rich." Ginny looked at the table, which was laden with panna cotta, butter cake, cornflakes, luncheon meat, roast lamb chops, and more. Given the Weasley family's conditions, this meal was indeed very rich, but it still paled in comparison to the fragrance that filled the air. Molly looked at her daughter's puzzled expression and smiled helplessly. "We have a guest at our house, Aaron Gaius. You should have heard about him from Ron and the others. If nothing else, this fragrance is his doing." I seem to have heard that name before," Percy said as he walked in, surprised. "Is Aaron here?" "Percy," Molly said, looking lovingly at her sensible third son. "It's exactly what you think. This vacation is really fun. Harry came over for a visit, and now we have another guest," Percy remarked. "Slytherin at the beginning of the term," Percy said, somewhat exasperated. "Of course, I still have a good feeling about Aaron. He knows how to measure his actions. Unlike other Slytherins, at least he isn't so domineering." Hearing this, Arthur and Molly exchanged a knowing smile. Initially, they had considered handing Aaron over for substantial reward, but after a brief interaction, they realized that this kid was so adept at socializing that it was impossible to dislike him. "What is that wonderful smell?" Molly inquired. "Aaron bought some fresh ingredients from us and decided to cook himself," Arthur explained. "Harry, Ron, George, and Fred are all outside helping him." "He made it himself?" Percy asked, momentarily stunned. He glanced at the lunch spread on the table, his expression turning a bit awkward. "Does that mean—" "He shouldn't mind if we join in," Arthur suggested. Percy's mouth twitched. "Forget it. I can't bring myself to do that." "All right, I knew you'd say that. I'll go ask Harry to have dinner with them," Arthur said. "I don't think that's necessary, Dad," Ginny pointed out. "They're almost at the door." They turned to see George and Fred walking back with a large tray, grinning. Harry and Ron were carefully carrying a ceramic soup pot, and Aaron followed them leisurely. Boom! George and Fred placed the tray in the middle of the table, causing the tableware to rattle. "Be careful," Arthur reminded them. "Sorry, Dad. It's just that the aroma is really enticing," George said with a smile. "Didn't you see? It's the first time I've seen someone use magic to prepare ingredients, control the temperature, and shorten the cooking time. It's simply an art. If I had the talent, I'd consider becoming a chef." "Let's go first. This fish soup is a bit hot," Ron said, carefully placing the soup pot on the table and blowing on his palm. "Aaron, what are you?" Molly began, puzzled. "Mrs. Weasley, you wouldn't let me eat outside." Aaron said with a smile. "This meal is my way of thanking the Weasley family for taking us in. How embarrassing. We didn't do anything," Molly said, flustered. "Mom, we'll talk about it later." We can't wait, George said, wiping the drool from the corner of his mouth as he opened the lid on the tray. A burst of white steam erupted, and the strong fragrance filled the kitchen, making everyone swallow involuntarily. What came into view was a bright red roast suckling pig, but it was different from what they had seen on restaurant menus. The faint smoky flavor easily aroused everyone's appetite. "It's so fragrant and extravagant," Arthur said, barely containing his excitement. Due to their financial situation, his family had never eaten such food, and he didn't expect to feast on it today. "Bill and Charlie will probably regret missing this," Ron said, gloating. "Aaron, this is really too much," Molly said, feeling a bit embarrassed. "After all, this isn't just for us," Aaron said, taking out his wand and swiping it lightly. The suckling pig was split in two. "Half of it is enough for Abe. To be honest, it has lost weight over the past 2 months, but has gained a quarter of a pound compared to before the holiday." Abe turned its face away arrogantly, but the next moment it jumped onto the dining table and rushed towards the half-pig's head. However, it floated uncontrollably in midair, still flapping its limbs and swimming towards the roast suckling pig with all its might. "Don't worry about it," Aaron said, giving Abe a gentle slap on the forehead. "It has no restraint when it comes to eating." Percy looked at the 2 servings of roast suckling pig on the dining table and then at Aaron in surprise. "Did you really make these yourself? It's not that I doubt you, but you're only 12 years old, the same age as Ron and just a year older than Ginny. Isn't this cooking technique a bit too advanced?" "Well, I really don't have this ability under normal circumstances, but my family enrolled me in a 2-month cooking course," Aaron began to explain. Aaron sighed and said, "That teacher is definitely a master in the culinary world." "Yuan, that's how it is," someone agreed. "Ahem," Arthur coughed, trying to regain everyone's attention. "Let's eat first. The food will get cold. We can't refuse such a kind offer from Mr. Gaius, can we?" "Exactly," Ron and the others chimed in, their anticipation evident. Molly quickly pulled up 2 chairs and guided Ginny to sit down. Aaron took the initiative to pick up a knife and fork, dividing the roast suckling pig into 9 portions. Harry and Ron filled bowls of fish soup for everyone, scraping the pot clean. Soon, the kitchen was filled with the sound of contented chewing as everyone savored the rare delicacies before them. The meal was a resounding success, with both hosts and guests thoroughly enjoying themselves. Arthur, not caring about appearances, slumped in his chair, rubbing his belly in satisfaction. The bond between Aaron and the Weasley family grew stronger, and he felt a genuine sense of belonging. As the saying goes, even the Weasleys need to save face. Having enjoyed the meal he prepared, they would be unlikely to report him, even if they had the inclination. Chapter 135, A Fairly Comfortable Camping Life. Night fell. Aaron lay alone in his tent, staring at the stars through the skylight. It was his first time running away from home and camping alone in the wild, and he couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. The accommodations were far from luxurious, but the Holy Dragon brand pillow in his arms, the top-quality magic carpet covering him, and the backpack full of funds under his head provided some comfort to his worldly heart. "Time to sleep," Aaron muttered to himself as he closed his eyes. However, he frowned involuntarily as he heard a familiar noise. Bang! 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 The sound of ghouls tapping pipes echoed from the top of the burrow. Although the noise was distant, Aaron's enhanced physical fitness allowed him to hear it clearly. No one likes sleeping with such disturbances, but Aaron knew he couldn't do anything about the ghoul. The Weasley family, who owned the burrow, had never driven it away, and even Ron Weasley, who slept closest to the ghoul, didn't seem to mind. This indicated that the Weasleys were quite accustomed to the ghoul's presence. Aaron sighed and raised his palm, casting a simple soundproofing spell on the tent. A layer of white light flashed, and the world became much quieter. Just as he was about to rest, a few small shadows appeared on the tent. A group of garden goblins, unable to sleep and looking for something to do, had gathered outside. The burrow usually didn't mind their presence, but Aaron's tent was a different story. These days, I can't even sleep well," Aaron muttered, rolling his eyes. He stepped out of the tent and addressed the 8 short, fat goblins, who looked like oversized potatoes. "I don't want to disturb you, but you'd better not bother me. Otherwise, you'll face the consequences. The goblins, however, paid no heed to Aaron's warning and continued their chattering. Then don't blame me, Aaron said, shaking his head. He called out to Abe, his magical companion. Go! Roar! Abe let out a low growl and charged at the goblins. With the physical prowess of a dragon, Abe easily overpowered the garden pests. One swipe of his paw sent a goblin flying, and he caught another that tried to escape. The remaining 6 goblins lay on the ground, groaning in pain. At that moment, the door of the burrow opened, and Mr. Weasley hurried over with a lamp. I almost forgot, Aaron. The goblins in the garden, you have to be careful. Arthur's voice trailed off as he witnessed Abe's impressive display of strength. The dragon had subdued the goblins effortlessly. Mr. Weasley, is there something you need? Aaron asked. Nothing, really. Just a reminder to take care of your magical animal. Arthur replied with a forced smile before turning back to the burrow. Aaron shrugged and picked up Abe, who was about to unleash his dragon's breath. Just teach them a lesson. Don't actually kill them. Abe nodded and followed Aaron back to the tent. After the display of strength, the garden goblins calmed down significantly. Aaron even felt that the frogs in the pond had quieted as well. The next morning, Aaron woke up early. He stepped out of the tent and stretched in the first rays of sunlight. You're awake, George and Fred greeted him as they approached. You got up so early. Even our father only gets up this early when the Ministry of Magic conducts surprise inspections. Aren't you up early too? Aaron asked. It's different. We set the alarm clock on purpose. We usually sleep in at this time, George explained. What? Quidditch training early in the morning? Aaron inquired. There are some reasons for this, but it's not the main one, Fred replied. I guess Wood will give us a hard time if we're late. After school started, there was a long lecture. His love for Quidditch was simply unmatched. I heard he even asked you to train with him in the rain, someone asked. It depends on how heavy the rain is, George shrugged. He then looked at Aaron's tent and asked shyly, Where is your flying blanket? Aaron snapped out of his thoughts and glanced towards the village, still shrouded in darkness. No wonder you have to get up so early. It's hard work. We've always been interested in novelty, Fred said eagerly. Aaron smiled, took out the dark blue blanket from the tent, and spread it in midair. The Weasley brothers' eyes shone brightly as they watched the magic carpet float steadily. Suddenly, their broomsticks seemed less appealing. Should we wait for Harry and the others? Aaron asked meaningfully. No, it's too late when they wake up, George and Fred said in unison, then jumped onto the magic carpet impatiently. They had risen early because the muggles in the village were still asleep. This way, they didn't have to worry about being discovered and could freely experience the magic of the flying carpet. The dark blue shadow disappeared from Aaron's sight as the Weasley brothers controlled the magic carpet, flying around. The speed of the magic carpet was much faster than their brooms, and they enjoyed the sensation of flying like lightning for a long time. More than 2 hours later, Harry and Ron emerged from their room. Seeing George and Fred sitting on the magic carpet and basking in the sun, both of them felt a pang of envy. But before they could speak, the Weasley brothers descended, folded the magic carpet, and handed it back to Aaron. Isn't it appropriate for you to do this? Ron said angrily. We just got here. It's very appropriate, Fred teased. Muggles are all awake now. This time isn't suitable for high-altitude flying. If we're discovered, the Ministry of Magic will send special personnel to deal with it, and that would be troublesome. So, George handed 2 broomsticks to Harry and Ron. You guys should play with these. Remember to fly lower. Aaron gave them a sympathetic look. The early bird catches the worm. Tomorrow, you'll have a chance. Can it be tonight? Harry asked. Muggles won't notice at night, will they? Not to mention, this blanket has a natural protective color at night. This really doesn't work, Ron said with a wry smile after hesitating for a moment. Mom went to buy ingredients and said she would prepare a big meal tonight to celebrate Ginny's attendance at Hogwarts this year. And school starts tomorrow. If we have fun tonight, we might not be able to catch tomorrow's train. All right, Harry conceded. It's okay, Aaron patted Harry's shoulder. In the future, if you lend me the invisibility cloak, I can definitely lend you the blanket. Harry nodded helplessly, and he and Ron picked up the brooms and went to a paddock on the hill to pass the time by tossing apples. After everyone left, Aaron felt a little bored by himself. He made a simple fishing rod, moved a pony, and tied it to the edge of the pond to catch fish. But his luck wasn't very good. By the time the Weasleys had finished their lunch, he had only caught one fish, which was promptly cooked by his pet dragon, Abe, with a burst of dragon flames. Although the taste might not be great, it was still edible. After that, Aaron watched his surroundings. From a distance, the combination of master and pet looked like a serene background scene. "Why won't you bite the hook?" Aaron muttered, gnashing his teeth at the nearest big grass carp. He had been eyeing this fish for 3 hours, but despite his efforts, the fish remained elusive. The fish hovered near the bait, its mouth opening and closing without taking a bite. It didn't matter if it didn't bite the hook, but it kept swimming near the bait, perhaps protecting the food or judging whether there was a trap. Aaron never expected he would engage in a 3-hour standoff with a fish. "Why don't I go and catch it?" Abe suggested, unable to stand it any longer. If his master sat any longer, he might turn into a statue. "No way!" Aaron shook his head. "This is all about patience. I won't be defeated by a fish." Abe curled his lips, disapproving in his heart, thinking the master was making a fuss over nothing. Just as he settled into a more comfortable position, he saw the fishing line begin to shake violently. A pair of big eyes cautiously looked towards the water. "Finally hooked," Aaron muttered, a small grin forming on his lips. He exerted force with his right hand, pulling up the grass carp below. Click! Just as he was about to pull the fish out of the water, the weak fishing rod suddenly snapped in two. "No!" Aaron began to howl internally. It would have been fine if he hadn't caught it, but failing when he was just one step away from success was unbearable. Watching the grass carp swim farther away, dragging half of the wooden pole, Aaron quickly picked up the remaining half of the fishing rod. Using a transformation technique, he turned it into a long net pole. The net rod swiftly entered the water and then lifted up suddenly, bringing the grass carp out. Phew! Aaron looked at his hard-earned catch and took a deep breath. There were twists and turns, but I am the one who wins in the end. As he gazed at the lively grass carp, 2 options came to Aaron's mind: steamed or braised. After much deliberation, he borrowed kitchen utensils and seasonings, eventually adding a plate of braised fish to the evening meal. Chapter 136. The Sealed Platform Entrance. September 1st, early in the morning. Just after dawn, the Weasleys' burrow became lively. Even though they had packed what needed to be packed the night before, there was still a sense of urgency to catch up with the start of school. As they hurried out of the burrow, pushing their respective boxes, Aaron had just finished putting away the tent and slinging his backpack over his shoulder. Standing by the car, he looked at the dusty Weasley family. Ron, in particular, still had a half-eaten piece of bread in his hands. Aaron couldn't help but laugh. "It might have been easier if we had put the suitcases in the car last night." "Good suggestion. I'll remember that for next time," Mr. Weasley said, then moved everyone's suitcases to the car. Although he knew that the car had been enchanted with a traceless stretching spell, seeing it in action still left Aaron a bit dumbfounded. Was it really appropriate for a Ministry of Magic employee to break the law so blatantly? Aaron was the last to get in, and the little Ford was visibly overloaded, but miraculously, it didn't feel cramped. It's amazing. From the outside, no one would think that there are 9 people in this car. "It took a lot of work when I modified it," Arthur said proudly, then started the engine. "Wait a moment." Aaron suddenly thought of something and hurriedly stopped Mr. Weasley. "What happened?" Mr. Weasley asked. "Before we leave, I suggest you think about whether you've left anything at home." "No, the boxes were packed last night," Mrs. Weasley said. "I also asked them to check everything. The luggage, wands, textbooks, and cauldrons are all here." "What about the broomsticks? Maybe I'm overthinking it, but there are 3 Quidditch team members in this car, and it seems like there are only 2 broomsticks in the trunk." "I must have left mine behind," Fred said, raising his left hand resentfully. He quickly opened the car door and retrieved a broomstick from the house. After sitting back in the car, he glanced at George. "I've also brought your filibuster fireworks with me. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have forgotten," Thanks, George replied. After confirming that no one had left anything behind, Mr. Weasley started the car again. With a roar, the Ford drove towards King's Cross Station. The Hogwarts Express was scheduled to leave at 11, and they arrived at 10:30. Mr. Weasley took everyone's suitcases from the trunk, then looked at Aaron and frowned worriedly. Is your family still here? Platform 9 3/4. Gin's should be waiting for me at the entrance. That's all right, boys. Let's go, Mr. Weasley said. A group of people pushed their suitcases to the space between the 9th and 10th platforms. At this time, there were less than 10 minutes left before the train's departure. Gins emerged from behind the partition wall, handed the cart in his hand to Aaron, and then looked at the Weasley family behind him. For a moment, a bit of bitterness appeared in the corner of his mouth, but it was hidden with a kind of relief. Thank you for taking care of the young master these past 2 days, Gin said. Hey, you don't need to be so polite. Arthur waved his hand hastily. We didn't provide much help, and with Aaron's outdoor survival skills, he can get along anywhere. Gins did not deny this point. He knew better than anyone else how many skills his young master had learned in the past 2 months. Master, you really made things difficult for me. Besides, you were too willful. I had thought of everything, except that you'd be at Malfoy's nemesis's house. Thank you for the compliment. After all, I won this round, Aaron said proudly. But your methods were too harsh, and I even had to issue a reward order from the Ministry of Magic. That wasn't my idea. Gins immediately distanced himself from the situation. It was number 6's idea. She said we couldn't find you, but she couldn't let you live too comfortably. Also, it was for your safety. The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched. This move was quite frustrating. He hadn't dared to run around these past 2 days, for fear of being caught. Someone from the Ministry of Magic bumped into them. Ahem. I'm sorry to interrupt your reminiscing, Molly said, but the train is about to leave. Shouldn't we take care of business first? Sorry. Gins immediately stepped aside, allowing Aaron to enter platform 9 3/4. After watching the young master leave, Gins gave Arthur and Molly a gentle smile. I know you two are in a hurry. If you have time later, you can find me at the coffee shop outside the station. It's a bit mundane, but on behalf of the Gaius family, I want to thank both of you. After speaking, he walked towards the station entrance. It's time for us to go, Arthur said, glancing at the wall clock. There are still 10 minutes left. Fred, Percy, George, you go ahead. The three passed through the partition wall, followed by Ginny, and then Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. It's our turn, Harry said, taking a deep breath. He pushed the cart and rushed forward. Boom! The stroller slammed into the partition wall, and Harry was knocked to the ground. Ron, who was following him, wasn't much better off and rear-ended into Harry's cart. The commotion attracted the attention of a nearby guard, who came over and shouted, What's the matter with you two? Sorry, the stroller is out of order, Harry said, clutching his aching arm. The guard shook his head and walked away. Why can't we get through? Harry looked at the entrance to platform 9 3/4, his eyes full of worry. He had a feeling this was no accident. Ron touched the partition wall, feeling its solid texture, and his face fell. The passage is sealed. At this time, even if the Ministry of Magic wanted to check the passage, it should be after 11 o'clock. Who knows? Ron began to push the wall hard, as if he could force it open. Harry joined him, even though the crowd of onlookers didn't seem to care. But the wall clock not far away was constantly destroying their psychological defenses, and their nerves tensed up with each passing minute. The two had no choice but to give up when the clock struck 11, the train's departure time. Even if they got through, they wouldn't catch the train. Harry, Ron said desperately, if we can't make it through, then neither can my parents. Worse, they might not even know we're stuck here. Let's go to the car and wait first, Harry said helplessly. Your parents can't forget the car here too. A car? Ron's expression changed slightly, a hint of eagerness in his eyes. Harry also thought of something and said, embarrassed, This isn't good. If your mother finds out, she'll go crazy. Underage wizards can use magic in truly urgent situations, as stated in the decree. I know it's exaggerating, but what if we get expelled from Hogwarts for being late? I'm fine, but you? Needless to say, Harry interrupted, calming down. He was unwilling to be expelled from Hogwarts no matter what. But I can't drive. It's okay. I can. Pushing their suitcases, the two quickly made their way through the crowd, exited the station, and came out onto a side street. As soon as they put their suitcases in the trunk of the car, they heard a familiar voice. Harry Potter? And Ron Weasley. Why didn't you get on the train? Ginns asked, puzzled. He had just received his coffee when he saw Harry and Ron running out of the station. The problem was, it was already 11 o'clock, and they should have been on the Hogwarts Express. Sir, Harry said anxiously, the entrance to the station was sealed, and we missed the train. Huh? Wait a moment. Ginns frowned and looked at the station from a distance. He peered through the crowd and buildings, stopping at the entrance of platform 9 3/4. There, he saw Dobby the house elf madly banging his head against the wall, repeatedly saying, Sorry. I see. Mr. Ginns, do you see anything? Ron asked. I can only tell you that this is not a coincidence, but I am unable to say more, Ginns said, his voice tinged with concern. He didn't understand why Dobby had sealed the entrance to the passage. What if it was on Malfoy's orders? Aaron had just visited their house a few days ago. Revealing the truth might cause unnecessary misunderstandings. But I can help you unlock the entrance to the passage. It will only take a few minutes. No need. The trains have all left, Ron replied with a wry smile. Even if we go in now, we'll only see a row of empty railroad tracks. Well then, I can write a letter to Dumbledore and briefly explain the situation. That way you won't be penalized for being late, Ginns offered. Can you? Harry's eyes lit up with hope. If someone vouched for them, they wouldn't be in trouble. Ginns nodded. It was a small matter for him. Besides, Dumbledore valued Harry and would likely be understanding. That, although it's a bit embarrassing to ask, is there any way you can help us catch that train? Ron asked, his face flushing with embarrassment. Ron, Harry tugged at his sleeve, don't take advantage of the situation. Let's not push our luck. But today is Ginny's first day at school. If we arrive late, we might miss her sorting ceremony, Ron insisted, his voice tinged with worry. Chapter 137, The Scream, Outside the Train. Harry came to his senses, feeling a pang of discomfort in his heart. He had lived with the Weasleys for a month and understood the significance of today for their family. While it might be an exaggeration to say it meant everything, it was certainly a special day. The Weasley family had 6 boys, including Ron, but only one girl, Ginny, who was the youngest and undoubtedly the most cherished. However, during her sorting ceremony, Percy, Fred, and George all showed up, but Ron did not, which was somewhat disappointing. Sir, is there anything you can do? Harry asked, his voice tinged with hope. Ginns paused for a moment, then shook his head under the expectant gazes of Harry and Ron. Notifying Dumbledore to exempt you from punishment is already the limit of what I can do. Helping you chase a high-speed train would be quite impossible. Okay, Ron said, pursing his lips. Harry, it seems we can only drive over according to the original plan. Flying car? Ginns looked at the blue Ford in front of him and smiled meaningfully. It seems Mr. Weasley has modified a good means of transportation. However, a friendly reminder, you are now on a street full of muggles. What would they think if they saw a car flying? It's okay, my dad's car is equipped with a stealth booster, Ron reassured him. It seems I was worrying too much. But if you drive this car, you can't get on the train halfway. You can only follow it to Hogwarts. Also, the sky is no safer than the land. If you're not careful, you might fall. So fasten your seatbelts and a few more points. Thank you for your advice, sir, but we are really in a hurry, Ron said impatiently as he sat in the driver's seat. Harry, help me look around. No one. You can go, Harry confirmed. Ron immediately started the car with his wand and pressed the silver invisible booster under the dashboard. Their car disappeared instantly, and the two of them became transparent. The invisible car flew into the sky, and the roar of the engine grew fainter and fainter. Ginns watched the car disappear into the distance and shrugged. It's really not a good habit to ignore advice. In fact, what he wanted to remind them was that the journey was not short. Even if they followed the train, they would have to drive until night. It would have been wise to prepare some food and water to avoid unnecessary suffering. Unfortunately, the two boys didn't care, and they would soon realize the consequences. Additionally, the car's invisibility might not last forever, as Arthur Weasley's modifications were impressive but not infallible. Meanwhile, Aaron was sitting on the train, sharing a compartment with Draco. Besides the two of them, there was a first-year student. "Colin, I didn't expect to see you here. What a coincidence," Aaron greeted. "Senior, nice to meet you," Colin said shyly. "This is my first time on a magic train. When will we arrive at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry?" "At this speed, we should arrive at the station around 6 or 7 in the evening. After the sorting ceremony, it will be just in time for dinner," Aaron replied. "Aaron, do you know him?" Draco asked curiously. "I met him once in Diagon Alley. By the way, he's a big fan of Harry Potter," Aaron explained. Draco's expression immediately darkened, and he looked at Colin with a hint of hostility. What happened to this freshman had nothing to do with him, Draco Malfoy, and he didn't care which house Colin was assigned to. But the fact that Colin worshipped his archenemy Harry Potter made him uncomfortable. "Draco," Aaron said seriously, "at least he has a bit of pure blood." "I know, but I'm just not convinced. Why do so many people like Harry Potter?" Draco grumbled. "He defeated the Dark Lord, and it's all recorded in the books," Colin said courageously. "It was Harry Potter who restored peace to the wizarding world." "Yes," Aaron nodded, "and that's why he's admired by many." "I admit it's true, but that's his bad luck," Colin said, indifferent. "Lie," curling his lips. "You're just jealous." "What do you know? You're just a new student. Fame can't represent everything, and his fame and strength are completely out of proportion," Draco retorted. "It's like some pure-blood families," Aaron added meaningfully. Draco fell silent for a moment, clenching his fists slightly. He knew exactly what Aaron meant. To everyone else, the Malfoy family epitomized pure-blood superiority, but as the heir, Draco was well aware of the truth. They had wealth, fame, status, and even power, but their actual strength was lacking. Many old wizarding families were in a similar situation, but the Malfoys were the most prominent. Despite their reputation, their magical prowess was only average, and their virtues were somewhat lacking. In other words, the Malfoy family lacked a powerful wizard who could truly uphold their wealth and status. "Senior, what's wrong with him?" Colin asked nervously. Aaron adopted a thoughtful expression. "He's contemplating life and ideals." "Don't mock me," Draco said, rolling his eyes. He then looked at Colin with a complicated expression. "Worship Harry Potter if you want. Do it yourself." "Senior?" Colin asked, confused. "He means, what do you want to do?" Aaron clarified. "Is that so?" Colin scratched his head, gave Draco a forced smile, then lowered his head and fiddled with his camera. "How have you been at the Weasleys these past 2 days?" Draco asked. "They didn't bully you, did they?" "Don't always think the worst of people. Their family is quite warm, except Percy." "You mean the Gryffindor prefect?" Draco asked. "Prefect?" Colin joined in curiously. "You can think of it as a student with some authority from the teachers," Draco explained impatiently. He then looked at Aaron. "Why is he different? Old-fashioned, well-behaved, good-faced, and his personality is a bit out of tune with that family," Aaron said, recalling Percy often holding a book titled How Prefects Gain Power. "He's good, but maybe a bit selfish compared to the others. Overall, he's decent. If nothing goes wrong, he'll definitely surpass his father after graduation, though the process might be a bit more difficult." Draco froze for a moment, then blinked. "That's it? What else do you want?" Aaron asked. "I thought there was a dark wizard in the Weasleys," Draco admitted. Aaron rolled his eyes. "It's the same thing. Don't think too badly of people. Percy is just living a more realistic life." Click, click. The sound of wheels rolling in the aisle interrupted them. A salesperson opened the door to their compartment. "Honey, do you need to buy something to eat?" "I don't need anything. How about you?" Draco asked. Aaron took out an orange from his pocket. "I don't need anything either." Colin hesitated for a moment, then took out a silver sickle and some nuts from his pocket. "I'll have some small cakes, thank you." "Okay." The salesperson took the coins and handed him 3 cakes from the cart. After the salesperson left, Colin was about to close the compartment door, but Aaron stopped him. "Wait, don't close the door yet." "What's wrong, Senior? Do you want to buy something too?" Colin asked. "No." Aaron frowned and shook his head slightly, his ears twitching. He seemed to hear the shouts of 2 old acquaintances, but the voices were sometimes close and sometimes far away. "Did you hear anything? Are you talking about the sound of the wind outside the window, the carts being pushed in the aisle, or the snoring next door?" Draco's face became a little weird. "Crabbe and Goyle are right next door. They definitely made that sound." "That's not it." Aaron waved his hand dismissively. "I'm talking about panicked screams." Draco and Colin looked at each other and shook their heads in unison. "Senior, could it be that you heard wrong?" Colin asked. "No," Aaron said firmly. He was confident in his hearing. Over the past 2 months, he had been forced by Hog to push his body to its limits. After enduring excruciating pain, his potential had been unlocked, and his hearing had improved several times over. Soon, he heard the familiar voices again. It sounded like Ron and Harry, but this time their cries were filled with struggle. "What on earth are those two up to?" Aaron wondered, glancing at the rapidly receding trees outside the train window. An absurd guess formed in his mind. He stood up from his seat and took a deep breath. "I'm going outside for a walk. You guys keep an eye on Abe for me. Don't let him wander off," so he instructed. With that, Aaron exited the compartment and walked along the aisle to the last car of the train. Using a disillusionment charm, he tricked the 2 guards and opened the rear door, stepping out to enjoy the scenery. After a few seconds, he frowned. Everything appeared normal, but there was no sign of Harry or Ron. "Not here?" Aaron muttered to himself. He hesitated for a moment before climbing the hanging ladder to the top of the train. The view instantly broadened, but the train was now crossing a long bridge, making the sight below quite dizzying. Fortunately, Aaron wasn't afraid of heights. He stood atop the train, scanning for any sign of his friends. Everything seemed normal, yet something felt off. Aaron focused on the sounds that differed from the train's roar. His eyes slowly moved in that direction, until he finally spotted a barely visible blue car hovering in the clouds above. Chapter 138. This road is not so easy to walk. This is too much. Aaron's mouth twitched. He was all too familiar with this car. It was the same one he had arrived at the station in that morning. What baffled him was why Harry and Ron would choose to drive a car over a long distance rather than take the comfort of a train. There are many ways to seek excitement, but this one was beyond belief. How much did they have to drink to do something so absurd? The journey to Hogwarts would take at least 8 hours by car. Aaron doubted they could last that long with their physical strength, especially since one of them didn't even seem to know how to drive, meaning they couldn't take turns. Shaking his head in disbelief, Aaron decided he had to help, if only because they had taken care of him these past few days. He took out his wand and aimed it at the left side of the ford in the sky, shooting a red flame. Whoosh! Ron, who was leisurely driving the flying car, was startled by the sudden red light. He instinctively jerked the steering wheel, causing the car to spin 720 degrees in midair before it barely stabilized. "What was that just now?" Harry asked, his voice tinged with panic. "How should I know? It came from below. Could it be that someone found us? Is the Ministry of Magic that efficient?" Ron replied, his confidence wavering. "Impossible. My dad works in the Office for Prohibiting the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts, and they usually deal with things after the fact," Ron said, though he sounded unsure. "And our incident happened suddenly. Even the Ministry of Magic can't punish us too harshly." "Not too harshly?" Harry's mouth twitched into a wry smile. "Let's go down and have a look first. Maybe it won't be so bad if we admit our mistake." Ron swallowed hard and began to descend the car. As they landed at a certain height, they both breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing Aaron on top of the train. They didn't know how he had found them, but at least it wasn't the Ministry of Magic. "You two are making quite a spectacle," Aaron teased. "Driving to Hogwarts? This is a major event that hasn't happened since the school was founded. This is not the way to become famous." The entrance to Platform 9 3/4 was sealed. "We had no choice but to drive," Harry said with a wry smile. "If it wasn't a last resort, they wouldn't have done it. The spell just now was very dangerous. If it wasn't for my good driving skills and a quick 720-degree turn, we both would have been in trouble," Ron said, trying to sound confident. "Good driving skills? Just kidding. I heard panicked screams more than once on the train just now. which means you made at least 2 mistakes before that, Aaron said, shaking his head. What I shot was just light, without any lethality, and I aimed it specifically at the left side of the car. How did you find us? Harry asked curiously. Ron had driven the car to an altitude of at least tens of thousands of meters. Logically, no one could spot them except for airplanes and birds. My hearing is quite good. When I was on the train, I heard your shouts and the roar of the car more than once. Out of concern, I took the risk and climbed onto the train to have a look. I didn't expect. Aaron shook his head. Does Mr. Arthur know you took the car? Harry and Ron exchanged guilty looks and shook their heads. I thought so. He would never allow you to do such a thing. But it's the first time I've seen a son jeopardize his father's job. Mr. Arthur will probably be called by the Ministry of Magic to explain, and your car will definitely not be kept. Impossible. Ron swallowed hard. No muggles should have seen me while I was driving. That's just what you hope. What if someone did see it? Additionally, wizards will definitely notice the abnormality. After all, it's broad daylight, and the noise of your driving is quite loud, Aaron said, tearing apart their hopes. But don't worry too much. After all, it's... The text cuts off here, but the implication is that Aaron was about to offer some form of reassurance or solution. Arthur's situation happened for a reason, and he is an old employee. The Ministry of Magic shouldn't give him too much trouble, Ron said, breathing a sigh of relief. Although the outcome wasn't ideal, it was still acceptable. Would you like to take a rest on the train? Harry asked. No, I have to drive. This is the only vehicle our family has, so we can't just leave it on the way, Ron replied with some regret. He then looked at Harry. Harry, why don't you go to the train? The car door opened, and Harry looked at the bridge, which was at least hundreds of meters high. His facial expression became particularly stiff. He had initially felt brave enough to jump, but now he hesitated. What do you mean? Ron shook Harry's shoulders, pulling him back from his trance. Harry forced a smile and pointed to the mountain stream below. If it were you, would you dare to jump? Ron glanced down and then at the train, which was only a few meters wide. He couldn't help but swallow nervously. I still have to drive. Seeing the hesitant expressions on their faces, Aaron couldn't help but laugh. He gave them a thumbs up. You two have assessed the situation very clearly. But don't worry, you still have a chance to jump when you cross this bridge. Even if you make a mistake, you'll only fall from a height of about 3 meters. At most, you'll break a bone. Actually, driving to Hogwarts is quite an experience, Harry said hastily. The car passed through the clouds under the blue sky, just like a fairy tale kingdom in a dream. And we still have Taffy. The scenery below changes every time I look at it. It's very beautiful. If you told Fred and George, they would be so envious, Ron added proudly. Are you serious? Aaron asked in astonishment. Of course, not everyone has the opportunity to enjoy this novel experience, Ron said. Aaron glanced at the sun hanging in the sky and thought of the 8-hour driving time. He couldn't help but sigh internally at how brave these two were. Aaron, do you want to try it too? Anyway, there are still seats in the car, Harry suggested. Aaron shook his head hurriedly. No, thank you. Even if I want to experience it, it won't be now. As Aaron was about to return to the car, he suddenly remembered something and turned to look at the two of them. If possible, let's make the car invisible. This is the wilderness or the railway bridge. There won't be any people here, but it's not certain if you go forward. It will be more convenient for you. We want to, but Ron pointed helplessly at the invisibility booster under the dashboard. It's malfunctioning, and this car can't be invisible. Ah, Aaron elongated his voice. I sincerely wish you good luck, and hope you can make it to Hogwarts. What do you mean? Harry asked nervously. He always felt there was something more to Aaron's words. You'll understand in a few hours, Aaron said, pointing to the sky. He then walked back the same way without looking back. Let's get back in the car, Harry said in a deep voice. We'd better be mentally prepared. I have a feeling the next part of the journey won't be easy. Ron didn't refute, but nodded solemnly. He knew Aaron wasn't the type to joke casually, and more importantly, he had heard the gloating tone in Aaron's voice. Back in the car, Aaron leaned lazily on the seat. Colin, can you do me a favor? Sure, Senior. What do you need? Colin asked. Help me get the salesman over. I might need to buy something. Huh? Colin was stunned for a moment. Yes, I'll go right away. After a while, the salesperson was called over by Colin. The snacks and drinks on the cart were more than half gone, probably bought by other students. What do you want? The salesperson asked Aaron with a smile. All of them, Aaron replied. The salesperson was obviously very happy to hear this and enthusiastically placed the remaining snacks on the table. Aaron gave Abe a look, and it snorted unhappily. Aaron poured out a dozen or so galleons free on his backpack. These should be enough, he declared. Yes, that's more than enough, the salesperson confirmed. Great, give Colin any change. How much is the errand fee? Aaron asked. Senior, it's not appropriate. I didn't do much, Colin said, flattered. I told you to keep it. You call me senior, and I can't order you around for nothing, Aaron insisted. Colin nodded and put away the silver sickles, copper nuts, and some galleons returned by the salesperson. Why are you preparing so much food? Draco asked curiously. Is it for Abe? His appetite is indeed quite large. As soon as Abe heard this, he immediately jumped in front of Aaron, rubbing his little face against Aaron's stomach. It's still the master who knows how to love me, Abe said affectionately. Aaron's face showed a few lines of exasperation. He hesitated for a moment before dividing the food on the table. These are yours, he said to Abe. The rest I prepared for 2 idiots. If they don't have some supplies, they'll probably starve to death on the way. 2 idiots? Who? Draco asked, puzzled. Aaron gave Draco a meaningful smile. You'll know when you get to Hogwarts, he replied enigmatically. Chapter 139, Timely Material Assistance. A few hours later, Harry and Ron were no longer enjoying their drive back to school. On the contrary, they felt tormented both mentally and physically, and were extremely tired. The only thing they had to eat in the car was toffee, but sugar alone can't substitute for a meal. Eating too much made them thirsty, and there wasn't a drop of water in the car. The blue sky was beautiful, but staring at white clouds for hours caused visual fatigue. The sun's rays shot directly through the windshield, raising the temperature inside the car significantly. Even though they had taken off their coats, they were still sweating profusely. I finally understand why Aaron didn't want to get in the car. This experience is really not something ordinary people can endure, Harry said with a wry smile, leaning back in his seat, his eyes full of helplessness. You're better off. At least you can lie down. I still have to drive, Ron grumbled, holding the steering wheel with a look of despair. I really want some water right now, and I really want to lie down and rest. I miss the iced pumpkin juice on the train. Who doesn't? Harry pursed his lips and poked his head out of the window, looking at the train moving steadily below. The direction is correct, but we still have a long way to go to Hogwarts. Don't say that! There's no worse news than that, Ron said, rolling his eyes. Harry, why didn't we get onto platform 9 3/4? I don't know, and I don't even want to think about it now. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of knocking on the car door reached their ears. What was that noise? Harry asked. Maybe it's a bird, Ron replied dismissively. But just as he finished speaking, the knocking sounded again. They turned their heads and met a pair of clear eyes. Abe, dressed in white, was looking at them from the car window. Its wings flapped constantly, matching the speed of the Ford, and it was carrying a small backpack. Abe, Harry exclaimed in surprise. Did Aaron send you to us? Abe nodded, opened the rear door, got in, and put down the backpack. Is this for us? Ron asked, looking at the full backpack with growing anticipation. Abe glanced at him arrogantly, opened the backpack reluctantly, and poured out its contents. Bread, cakes, chocolates, multi-flavored beans, everything Harry and Ron needed. But what made them happiest were the bottles of iced pumpkin juice and mineral water. Gulp. Ron swallowed and looked at the cute pet behind him. You did a great job. I really love you. Abe took a step back in disgust, took out a note left by Aaron from his pocket, and handed it to Harry. Let me see what's written, Harry said, reading the note aloud. This time, I consider it a thank you to the Weasley family for taking me in, but remember not to throw objects in the sky. We don't need him to teach us that. We understand common sense, Ron said, laughing. He reached out and took a bottle of iced pumpkin juice, drinking half of it in one gulp. I feel alive again. Harry also took a bottle of pumpkin juice and a few small cakes. As they ate and drank, the fatigue on their faces diminished significantly. Suddenly, this feels like the right way to travel, Harry said. But it's still not as good as the train. At least on the train, we don't have to drive, and we don't have to fly so high because we can't be invisible, Ron added. I'm sure I won't be late for the next train ride. At that moment, Abe patted Harry on the shoulder and pointed to Aaron's note, indicating that he hadn't finished reading it. Harry turned the note over and read the back. A friendly reminder. Be mentally prepared. I don't think this car can fly for that long with its current performance. Ron's face changed. Although he knew this was just Aaron's guess, it was a possibility they couldn't ignore. He didn't want to be forced to stop halfway through the drive. Abe, did Aaron tell you the solution to the problem? Abe hesitated, then jumped to the front row and grabbed a black wand from Harry's clothes. The two looked at each other, unsure of what to say. They were wizards, but only quasi-second-year wizards. Controlling the flying car wasn't just difficult for them, it was impossible. Ron, I might, Harry said with some embarrassment. You understand? Ron nodded blankly. Others might not know Harry's level, but his buddy knew it well. Together, they could use the levitation spell to prevent the car from falling suddenly, but making it move forward or backward was beyond their abilities. Actually, the situation may not be as serious as he said. After all, this car was carefully remodeled by my father, Ron said, trying to cheer himself up while convincing Harry. But Mr. Weasley probably hasn't flown this car in a long time. At least it took us from Surrey to Devon. If we work harder, we might make it to Hogwarts, Ron added. Hearing this, Harry breathed a sigh of relief. By that standard, the car was still reliable. Abe, who was in the back seat, completed the task assigned to him by Aaron. He put his backpack on, opened the car door, and flew down. Back in the train compartment, Draco looked at the empty backpack on Abe's back, and then at Aaron, curiously. What did you let it do? Of course, I let it help those in need, Aaron said with a meaningful smile. After all, I am so kind. Senior is really caring, Colin said solemnly. Seeing Colin's thumbs up, the corner of Draco's mouth twitched. This kid, he would be easily fooled in the future. It was hard to tell if it was a blessing or a disaster that Harry Potter had such a fan. The train continued on the long rails, white smoke billowing from the chimney, passing through the dusk and entering the night with a rhythmic clattering sound. The distance to Hogwarts was getting closer, and the wizard students in the car changed into their wizard robes. Colin checked his wand carefully. We're going to Hogwarts soon. I heard that new students will be sorted. Which house do you want to go to? Draco asked. Just so you know, the proud Slytherin house won't accept wizards of Muggle blood unless you're ancestors. I'm going to Gryffindor, Colin interrupted, leaving Draco a bit embarrassed. Was the celebrity effect really that strong these days? Ahem. Listen to my advice. Don't go to that academy. Although you may not be able to enter Slytherin, Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff are also good options. There's no need to choose the same house as Harry Potter just because you admire him. Okay, don't judge him on this matter. Colin is free to choose what he wants, Aaron said, exasperated. And there are some houses he can't go to, even if he wants to. Okay. Draco spread his hands and said nothing more. After all, the sorting was determined by the sorting hat, and while Colin's preferences played a role, they weren't the only factor. Aaron stood up from his seat and looked out of the window. There seemed to be a black shadow rising and falling in the dark clouds. What a mess! That car is probably at its limit. What are you looking at? Draco walked up to Aaron and followed his line of sight, but couldn't see anything. It's nothing, Aaron smiled lightly, then walked out of the car. I'll be back later. Senior, what did he do? Colin asked. Draco didn't have any ill feelings towards this quasi-Gryffindor student, but he couldn't say he liked him either. He just sat back in his seat. How should I know? In the aisle, Aaron walked through the cars one by one, his eyes quickly scanning the familiar and unfamiliar faces, finally stopping in front of a compartment. Hey, Aaron, why are you here? Fred greeted. Aaron glanced at Ginny, who was sitting by the window, then at Fred and George, and raised his eyebrows slightly. Isn't Percy here? He's in the prefect's car, said George. He's been that way since he became a prefect. Aaron hesitated for a moment, then looked at Ginny and said, "Harry and Ron have something to do temporarily. They might not be able to make it to Ginny's sorting ceremony." Fred interrupted Aaron Way. The smile. "If you have something to say, just say it." "Okay, I'd say they might not be able to make it to Ginny's sorting ceremony." "What?" All three were a little surprised. "Is there anything more important than my sister's sorting ceremony?" George frowned. "Won't Harry Potter come too?" Ginny said with some regret. Aaron nodded without denying it. "Which car are they in? Let's talk to them," Fred said, standing up. George also stood up. "What I'm talking about is just a possibility. Maybe they can catch up, and the train is about to stop, so it may be too late for you to find them now," Aaron said, stopping the two at the door of the carriage. He knew that if the mischievous twin brothers found out how Harry and the others were traveling, they would probably find a way to join them halfway. Chapter 140. I Caught Up. The location of the forced landing was wrong. Back in his compartment, Aaron closed his eyes and rested, quietly waiting for the train to arrive at the station. Telling George that Harry and Ron might not make it to the sorting ceremony was just a whim, a way to prepare himself mentally so he wouldn't be too disappointed if he didn't see them in the auditorium. About 10 minutes later, the train slowed down amidst the sound of whistles and stopped at Hogsmeade. The students disembarked one after another, and the scene became extremely noisy. "Senior, this is my first time at Hogwarts," Colin said nervously to Aaron. "Can I follow you?" "Don't worry, someone will guide you," Aaron reassured him. As soon as he finished speaking, a familiar voice sounded not far away. "First-year freshmen, gather here and follow me." "Is that him?" Colin asked. "That's right. Hagrid will lead the new students across the Black Lake in the traditional way, and then you'll arrive at Hogwarts Castle. Just follow him." "Thank you, Senior," Colin said, smiling broadly before happily heading towards the giant Hagrid. "Actually, you don't need to take care of him like that," Draco said, puzzled. "Even if you didn't say anything, he would know what to do." Aaron shook his head and said meaningfully, "Not every Muggle-born wizard can be as confident as Hermione. When they are unfamiliar with everything, what they need most is a little bit of kindness. Besides, this child is too naive. I'd feel a little guilty if I didn't help him." "You're only a year older than him. Why act so deep?" Draco said, exasperated. As second-year students, Aaron and Draco didn't need to go to Hogwarts Castle by boat. Instead, they followed another group of people after getting off the bus and walked to the other side of the platform. On a rough, muddy path, hundreds of empty carriages were parked, but there were no horses to draw them. "Is this an invisible horse?" Draco asked. "That's right. I heard from Hagrid that the school raised a group of thestrals specially for pulling carts," Aaron explained, recalling the description he had read in a book. "Thestrals are a type of Pegasus, tall and bony, with the head of a dragon and the body of a horse, and a pair of broad wings on their back. They have an extremely keen perception. They can be tamed and will not betray, but the catch is that only those who have witnessed death can see them." Abe walked up to a carriage and looked curiously at the space between the carriages, as if he could see the magical thestrals. But before he could take a second look, Aaron picked him up and took him to an empty carriage. Draco followed into the carriage, closed the door, and the carriage automatically moved towards the castle. "Calm down. There are many people here, and it's easy to attract attention," Aaron said sternly. Abe groaned and lay obediently in Aaron's arms. The corners of Aaron's eyes twitched slightly as he heard Abe's dragon language. "Thestrals are not as good-looking as me. They're all skin and bones." The carriage drove past 2 wrought iron gates, sped up, and passed a long ramp before coming to a wobbly stop. Arriving at the castle, Aaron and Draco jumped out of the carriage. "Boss, we are here," Crabbe and Goyle said, running over from behind and standing beside Draco like sentinels. "Where did you go?" Draco asked, a little annoyed. "I didn't see anyone when I passed by your carriage just now. You guys are so bold that you didn't even wait for me." The two looked at each other, hesitating to speak. After a moment of silence, Crabbe said resentfully, "Actually, we were in the car, but we accidentally fell to the floor when we got out, so—" Draco patted his forehead, speechless, but these were his followers, and he couldn't just abandon them. "Okay, don't worry about this little episode. Anyway, we're second years now. Draco said, trying to brush off the incident. Draco glared at the two of them angrily. Let's go. I hope you'll be more reliable next time. The four of them followed the crowd up the steps, through the majestic oak doors, and into the spacious, deep hall. They passed through a marble staircase and turned a few corners to reach the auditorium. Several prefects guided the students from their respective houses to sit at the long tables designated for each house. In front of them, college professors and other faculty members were seated neatly. Headmaster Dumbledore looked at a letter on the table, frowning slightly, lost in thought. Professor Snape glanced deeply at Aaron, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, before turning his face away expressionlessly, his aloofness and arrogance fully evident. At this moment, Professor McGonagall placed the sorting hat on an empty chair. It seemed to have gathered dust over the past year. Aaron, who was at the front of the long table, felt a bit uneasy, perhaps due to a touch of obsessive-compulsive disorder. The sorting hat seemed to sense something and opened its human-like eyes. I warn you, put away those little thoughts you shouldn't have. I am a freshman in this class, so don't point fingers at me. Don't worry, I'm not that kind of person, Aaron said solemnly. He then turned to Professor McGonagall. Professor, could you give it a simple cleaning? I think freshmen might instinctively resist a dirty hat. The sorting hat interjected, Don't go too far. Why don't you point fingers? I didn't do it myself, Aaron replied naturally. Isn't this specially commissioned by others? Professor McGonagall hesitated for a moment, looking at the wrinkled sorting hat with a bit of pity. This is not very good. Minerva, you are more sensible, the sorting hat said. Unlike some people who don't know how to respect their seniors at all, I am a magical item created by the four founders of the Academy, and the necessary respect must always be given. That's true, Professor McGonagall said awkwardly. It can be regarded as the elder of the Academy. Cut! Aaron curled his lips in disapproval. Were the four founders of the Academy, Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw, amazing? They might indeed have been remarkable, as they were the pinnacle of the wizarding world at that time, and the chosen ones of their era. But no matter how great they are now just a handful of dust, and their legacy holds no deterrent effect on him. Besides, the ancestors of his Gaius family might not have been weaker than the Big Four. This holiday, he had encountered a group of ancient wizards, and his awe of those great wizards had significantly diminished. Soon the freshmen followed Hagrid to the auditorium. The first-year students, including Ginny and Colin, looked around curiously at the magically decorated hall. Hagrid walked straight to his seat and poured himself a full glass of beer. Ahem, freshmen, come with me, Professor McGonagall instructed, bringing them to the front of the auditorium. She then picked up the sorting hat and a long list. Students whose names I call, please come forward. The sorting hat will assign you to the most suitable house. The sorting hat grinned, its folds forming a crooked smile. This was the happiest and most revealing time of the year for it, as it got to interact with all the new students. Professor McGonagall started the roll call as usual, and the freshmen sat on the chair one by one to be sorted. Aaron watched the scene silently, expecting that a wizard like him would show the sorting hat a face full of water. The next moment, he frowned slightly, because he vaguely heard the roar of a car. If nothing else happened, it had passed by the wall. Additionally, he heard a sharp cry and rolled his eyes in exasperation. Harry and Ron seemed to have made it to school smoothly, but it didn't seem to be entirely uneventful. Aaron glanced at the teacher's table, hesitating for a moment. Should we report this to the professors? He wondered. However, he quickly decided to feign ignorance. He had already done everything he could to help his friends. From his perspective, he had done his best. Besides, the professors might not believe him, and if they did, it could make things worse. Driving to Hogwarts in a flying car, while not explicitly forbidden in the school rules, was certainly not encouraged. If caught, the consequences would be severe. Meanwhile, Harry and Ron were sitting in the Ford Anglia, panting nervously. The long drive had taken its toll on the car, and although they had finally reached their destination, their emergency landing had gone awry. The car was now stuck in a large tree. Unfortunately, this was no ordinary tree. It was the Whomping Willow, a magical plant known for its violent tendencies. The Homping Willow would attack anything that came near it, and the ford was now at its mercy. Before Harry and Ron could react, several thick branches, as menacing as pythons, came crashing down towards them.